And now, one and on, a Thursday edition of the Bill Michaels Show. Thanks for hanging out. And Brewers got a win last night. Boy, that was, again, Powerball. Good stuff. Powerball. I'm always enjoying it. But they did some yard work yesterday. They got guys on. They moved them around. They fended off the Giants, and the Giants come back in that contest and walked away with a win. So I was feeling a lot better about the Brewers last night. Made me smile a little bit. So good stuff there. Welcome into the program. 877. I'm so anxious today, and I got to admit that as the days wind down to the ride and the concert, it's less and less sleep time. So I'm running on fumes today. So I appreciate you just kind of putting up with me, so to speak. However, the one thing that I did want to give you today specifically is the fact that we had last night a tremendous gesture, and I'll explain it in the next hour. But it could benefit you. So it was a wonderful thing last night, and we found out about this about 7:00 yesterday. So and I posted it yesterday very quietly on Facebook, and people just actually didn't believe me. It was on the Facebook page. People weren't believing me, like this is a scam, and I'm like, no, this is true. So we're going to tell you about it coming up here a little bit later on in the program, and then. I have to admit, it's the first time I ever heard a twinge of maybe disagreement in Matt LaFleur's voice towards Gutey. So I want to talk about that too. The phone number to get a hold of us, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, do it, 608-321-1670. That is the text line, 608-321-1670. You can find us there. You can always track us down over on Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. YouTube.com. That's youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. Why is that big today? Well, you got a Brewers game today. So the Brewers played during the day today. And that means that some of the affiliate stations are going to leave us a little early. So you can always watch us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. Or you can listen to us on the app, WOZN, The Zone Madison. Find us there as well. And you can always download the app. You can take us anywhere and everywhere. Listen to us on your desktop. Go to thebillmichaels.com. But then there's Facebook. There's Instagram.com, The Bill Michaels Show. You can find us over there. You can always email the program, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. And then the after effect, which is Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google Podcast, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So there you have it. Grant Bills, how you doing today, man? Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna listen to them because I want to hear them today specifically, because I caught bits and pieces as I was driving around yesterday, and then listened to it a little bit last night, kind of into the background as I was getting a lot of work done. But today I want to kind of revisit that and focus on that, because the first time, I have to admit, the first time I ever heard. Now, when Aaron Rodgers was going through his whole thing with, Gutey and Russ Ball and, Mark, and Matt LaFleur was kind of thrown into the middle of it. So you could always tell he was a little uncomfortable when he was walking a tightrope. But this is the first time I ever heard, like, maybe disagreement, between the two. Maybe a little bit of a look inside the window to say, hey, this is where decisions are made, so to speak. So I thought that was rather interesting. What we're talking about, for those that don't know, is that Matt LaFleur yesterday was asked about the new kicker. And, immediately the kicker's brought in, Joseph's cut loose, and it's between Gutey, maybe Rich Bisaccia, obviously, maybe more Rich Bisaccia had a hand in this than anything. and maybe he got listened to. I don't know. But it sounded to me like when Matt LaFleur answered the question about the new kicker, it sounded to me like it might have not necessarily been in his hands from what his decisions were. They bring in Braden Narvison, and when asked about Braden Narvison, this is what Gutey had to say. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt LaFleur. I'm sorry, you're right, Matt LaFleur. Okay. You're bringing he hasn't worked with them ready for real games. But you got to wait for cutdown day. He has to understand that. But it's like it's not the position we wanted to be in. Now when you're talking about a guy that actually creates points when he walks on the field. Usually, I mean, unless you're kicking off. So not the best of feelings, I guess, might be the best way to put it. So it just didn't sound like it was the best of topics, I guess. Sometimes, and we talked about, you stick with, I don't want to necessarily say the evil, but you kind of stick with the evil versus the evil you don't know. So at least in the back of your head, you've got a, stat sheet, if you will, kind of in front of you as to what this guy may or may not be capable of doing. So you kind of look for that. Then you've got, Gutey. You got Matt LaFleur, and he's kind of talking again about, the decisions being made and the kickers and such. So this is what else he had to say. So clearly, when asked, you worked out at least 5 other kickers and all that kind of stuff, and you're bringing in this guy from the Titans, and he's like, yeah, it's ask Bisaccia. Don't ask me with that. Now the question then becomes when you've got a new guy in Braden Narvison, and you're starting to drive down the field, and you have to make decisions. You have to figure out where this guy actually can hit from, where he's comfortable, how big of a leg does he have, what kind of decision making now are you going to have, or how difficult does the decision making come with a new kicker? And Matt LaFleur talked about that.
Some of the decision making you make, and we'll see. We'll get a couple days with him to kind of get a feel for him as he performs. What's hard is you just don't have any game, experience with him. But he did a nice job in Tennessee. I know that.
He did a nice job in Tennessee. He is, by the way, the whole thing about never missing a PAT, again, it's different. NFL versus college. So, okay, that's great. But that would be like, a guy today never missing a PAT. It's different because you're kicking, I think, a 27 or 32 yarder versus the college way that goes back to the old way the NFL used to do it. There you go. So anyway, it just sounds like Matt's not happy. It's not necessarily that he thought maybe Joseph was the man. But I think it's like, you can't do this to us just as we're getting into our rhythm, or maybe it's not something that maybe behind closed doors, him, Rich Bisaccia, Brian Gutekunst, maybe they disagreed over who they wanted. It just, is it me, or does he just sound like he's not happy? grand.
The way that I heard this, I
Yeah.
think other people are interpreting it all sorts of ways. I tweeted out the clip last night when he's like, ask Rich Bisaccia. That to me is more, I don't know. That's what I pay him a ton of money to do. He's the one who's supposed to have a handle on this stuff. And our special teams took a step back last year and our kicker sucked and he couldn't even make the roster in year 2. So ask him because he's the one who's supposed to be in charge of that. And if Packers fans hear that and say, oh, he's blaming his coordinator. Oh, okay. That's one way to view it. I think he's fed up. He's like, I'm not supposed to have to worry about that stuff. That's why I hire my coordinators.
Right. That's, which is, another way to kind of interpret it. And I wouldn't blame him there. And that's a very logical way to do it, to be honest with you. This is what you go through when you are so quick to show somebody the door. I said it at the time. People ripped Mason Crosby because he couldn't kick it out of the end zone on kickoffs. And had the rules stayed the same, okay, I can somewhat agree with you. But he was money from 49 and in. Money. Wasn't missing PATs, didn't miss a ton of field goals. He was reliable. And once you don't have a kicker, it is an eyesore. When you've got everything else in your team that seems to be humming right along. It's kind of like you polish, you're polishing a Corvette and it's sitting there in a driveway and you're looking at it and you've got all the wax on it and you're like, oh, look at that thing. And then on the back where you really don't worry about the back, a bird flies by and craps on it. And you've got that stain. The rest of the car is beautiful. Everything's great. But now you're kind of like, oh God, I got to worry about this. I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I got to get out of here. I spent my whole day cleaning the car. I got to go. So you got to worry about that. That's what this situation is. That's what it seems like to me. Bird crap on the back of a vet. Because otherwise you never have to worry about it, right? The bird doesn't fly by. If things aren't bad, you just got a really nice car. You're driving down the street. Everything seems to be right. Every now and then you're going to have a problem. Maybe you have a flat tire. You run over a nail. Maybe, you need a little engine work or something every now and then, but you don't drive around with the blemish, and that's what special teams has been the last couple of years, has been kind of the blemish, for lack of a better term. So there you go. Let's do this. We'll step out. We'll take a quick break. I want to get your thoughts on this. Agree or disagree? Agree or disagree? Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, I'm Jeff Levering alongside Gina Dello from Pella.
Thanks, Jeff. How do you say welcome?
With a new entry door from Pella.
Say it with color.
Like baseball bat oak or foul pole yellow?
Say it with class.
Like following players' unwritten baseball rules.
With clarity.
Like a no-doubter shot off the scoreboard.
Or with confidence.
Like an overachieving first-place team who experts predicted would be below average this season.
Before saying welcome with your new entry door from Pella, secure an incredible deal.
Like a ruthless baseball player's agent. Here's the deal you cannot pass up.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
That's the ball game. A Pella walk-off.
Your new entry door from Pella is installed and warranted by Pella for years of comfort and durability.
Don't miss out on 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
Schedule your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 8/31/2024.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
We had 5 different guys come through here in camping. I have a question for me. That is a question for Rich Bisaccia.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. On this Thursday, we continue on. Good to have you on board today, and excited because I've got a kind of a cool announcement that could affect you coming up in the next hour. I'm excited about this. Kind of geek today. Yeah, boy. So anyway, that being said, if you want to touch base with us, you can via text line. Text is always great. 608-321-1670, 608-321-1670. And then if you want to hit us up, 877-867-1670 as well. Talking about Matt LaFleur in regards to the kicker, and he's just basically like, look, that's not me. That's Rich Bisaccia. Dr. Pepper says, I so love your color commentary. On the Packers, you don't switch horses in middle of the stream, but it sure sounds like that's what they are doing. Aaron said, I think the Packers made the choices we wanted them to make regarding bringing in apparently the best available player to be our next kicker. Almost every other team has spent years wringing their hands like this about quarterbacks. How blessed, though, are we? Which is true. True. And then he says, this one's from the 414, said, I sit here and think, and this is Mark from La Crosse. I sit here and think about bringing back Mason Crosby, and you're right. Consistent from 49 and in, wonder why his name isn't being brought up at all by other teams. Not sure of his performance that he had last season, I think, with the Giants. Would a veteran minimum wage guy be a holdup? That's Mark from La Crosse. I think Mason Crosby's career has come to an end. He would be 3, I think, Grant? If I'm not mistaken, I think he'd be like 43 years old now. I think is what Mason Crosby.
No, I think their worst idea is the Packers could bring back Mason Crosby, and then the Brewers could bring back Trevor Hoffman. Why not? Let's just bring all these guys back. They're old. That's why they're old.
Right.
Like I understand that we'd all take an old Mason Crosby from 3 years ago over this, but he's old, and the Packers need to find their next guy. It's just taking them a little bit longer than they wanted to spend looking.
Yep, no doubt. So I just think that's not going to happen. They're not. Mason Crosby's career's come to an end, and that's pretty much done. However, look, going back to Dr. Pepper and company saying basically they did what we wanted them to do. bring in the best. Whoever the best out there is, bring in the best. And again, I go back to the point that I'm kind of admiring the fact that Gutey's like, nope, not going to make it. Anders Carlson gone. Joseph's the best we got. Let's look around. Nope, another one out there. He's better. Let's go. They're just trying to make this thing the best they can. Now, whether or not it turns out to be the right decision or not, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But you're just trying to make it the best they can at this point. So you hope, knock on wood, that Narvison's a guy. And I get all this. Everybody's sending me his statistics. Have you seen him and this and that? I get all that. You don't know. You don't know you don't know a couple things. You don't know what it's going to be like, kicking in the pros. You don't know what it's going to be like kicking at Lambeau Field. You don't know what it's going to be like kicking with all that pressure. You don't know what it's going to be like within the division. Kicking in domes. I know that, like you could look at a guy like Mason Crosby. When I used to talk to him about kicking in domes, he always said you would find out where the airflow is. That's what you looked for. That was it. And then you kind of knew what you were. Some end zones were better than others. Some guys just had a feel about certain end zones, which side to go to, where they were more comfortable. Guys always had that kind of feel. There are, believe it or not, in a dome, it's not just a dome with stagnant air. They do have vents and such that moves air in those places. So there is air movement. Some are stronger than others, but you're just trying to find the best guy out there. That's it. And I don't blame Gutey for trying to do it. Not at all. 877-867-1670. If you want to chime in, you can. More over on the text line, or nope, excuse me. I'm more over there on the email inline. And this is from Bob. Bob says, hey guys, I think we're overlooking the fact they're just trying to put out there the best possible team they can. Why Matt LaFleur would be upset about it, I can understand, because the special teams has been a sore subject matter ever since the loss to San Francisco. Have the special teams gotten, because you get rid of Mason Crosby, have the special teams gotten better with Rich Bisaccia? In your eyes? I mean, to the eyeball test. I'm not asking for, the plethora of statistics that are out there, because, that is a telling tale, obviously. But have they gotten better under Rich Bisaccia? Grant, do you think they're better? Do you think they've gotten better?
I think they're better than they were under, who was the last guy? Mo Drayton? Was it Menenga and then Drayton? What was the lineage of proud special teams coordinators? Just for reference, people can use their eye test. People can believe what they want. But Rick Gosselin, that's his name, right? The special teams rankings every year. That's his thing.
Right.
In Rich Bisaccia's first year, they went from 32 to 22. And then last year, they went back down to 29.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I'd say no.
I would say no. Now, one of the reasons they went back down to 29 is the kicker was not making kicks. That's first and foremost. Last year, they did not have a lot of return game. It was almost non-existent in the NFL. So that doesn't help your statistics. I have not seen, since the San Francisco game, have we had a blocked kick or punt? Maybe one. But it's like completely escapes me. And if you remember the last time the Packers had played San Francisco on that cold night at Lambeau, they were getting a punt blocked for a touchdown, field goal blocked, and they ended up losing a very close but yet ugly game in the snow, in a snow globe. So are they better? I think blocking wise up front, philosophically, yes. But two things have happened. One is Keyshawn Nixon didn't have any big returns last year, and they kind of struggled in the return game. And two, their kicker was inaccurate. Between PATs and field goals that were between 40 and 49 yards, they were inaccurate. They were less than 50%. On those field goals, and on the PATs, they had more than a few blocked, or more than a few wide, I should say. So, but nothing blocked. But they've been a better team philosophically, a worse team fundamentally. Operationally might be the best way to put it.
you mentioned that they went into the tank last year, and a big part of that was because their kicker wasn't any good, right? Okay.
Right.
It's 100% reasonable. In Rich Bisaccia's first year, they had the best kickoff returner in football. Keyshawn Nixon was unbelievable, and they were only, 22nd?
Right.
It's not like that even got them. They had the best returner in football, and they were still the bottom third of the league in special teams.
Right.
So I think that kind of balances out the last 2 years.
Here's where the pressure comes in when you think about this. The pressure is because Rich Bisaccia, who was an interim head coach and did a damn good job for the Las Vegas Raiders, was then hired. They spent the money on this coach, was then hired to come in and be the no-nonsense guy and fix this thing. And much like when Mike McCarthy hired Dom Capers, he said, I don't want to worry about it. This is in your hands. And that's what Bisaccia was supposed to do, was supposed to fix this. So to go from 22nd back to 29th, some of it's personnel, but you got to think that just by the tenor of Matt LaFleur's voice, that Bisaccia he's got a really high-powered magnifying glass on special teams this year.
That is a question for Rich Bisaccia.
Yep, that's a question for Rich. Jamie asks, does the special teams rule change all that makes us give them any grace this upcoming season? Does it matter that the rule changes when you're bringing in that much money? It's a great question. I don't think there's going to be much. Here's the problem. Everybody, it's one thing if you've got to come in and work with the personnel and try to find out the nuances and make that team better. It's another thing if you get outschooled, outcoached, out-understood by other special teams coordinators in the league, and your special teams are bad, not because you're missing a bunch of field goals, but because your coverage is not good and your return game is not good. When everybody else has to figure it out too, because everybody else is on the same playing field. The only difference is the personnel you have in your own back door. And the one thing that we talked about yesterday was the Packers, who had their cuts, had numerous players claimed. So you would assume then the quality of depth on this team is better than what other teams are searching for and what other teams have on theirs. So you're already, at least seemingly on paper, starting ahead of numerous teams in the NFL. To say, look, we've got such good talent. We had to cut good talent. Other teams are claiming our good talent because we had to cut them because we didn't have room. That should make your team top to bottom a really good football team. So that should say that your special teams innately should then be better. Hey, coming up here in about 15 minutes, Paul Charchian is going to join us, and I am off and running in my Guillotine League. Hopefully you are as well. You can go to guillotineleague.com and check it out. We're going to talk with Paul Charchian. Coming up here in about 15 minutes, we'll start taking some questions and talking about Charch's league, and in addition to that, what some of the things that are going on signing-wise throughout the league start to mean if you're doing your draft, specifically if you're doing your draft this weekend. You're probably a little bit behind the game if you are, but if you're doing your draft this weekend, man, you may want to listen up. Hey, our friends that want to ride with us, that is great. We need more riders. We are closing in actually on our record high pre-registration, and for those who pre-register for the motorcycle ride coming up this Sunday, which registration ends tomorrow night at midnight. So only for those who pre-register, you're then eligible for a drawing, which will be one of what, 600-700, something like that, for a prize package that we're going to give away that morning, Sunday morning, on the stage before we ride. One is $500 in cash. Two, you ride up front behind us in the police department as they take us in the first leg, fully escorted by the police departments down to Great Lakes Dragway. And then three, you get a VIP ticket, a pair of them, VIP tickets to the concert and backstage meet and greet. All of that for a lucky person who's drawn out of those who pre-register for the motorcycle ride. So if you want to pre-register, you want to ride with us and you haven't done it yet, you've been thinking about it, now's the time to do it. Go to bigunitfoundation.com. That's bigunitfoundation.com, or simply find us on Facebook at Big Unit Poker Run, and you can find us there as well. If you still want to ride with us, but you're not pre-registering, that's fine. Come on down, because we're going to be doing on-site registration the morning of. We're going to do it quick. We've got credit card machines and everything we're taking right there on site. Everything's going to be done pretty much electronically, really quick. And then all you got to do is, instead of filling out all the paperwork, you sign your name, boop, off you go. It's that simple. It's going to be really fun. Going to be a great ride for a great cause, supporting our veterans, military members, first responders, and their families. We can't wait to see everybody, all your shining faces for our yearly reunion coming up this Sunday, September 1st. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everybody knows if it's summer season, it's festival season. And Potawatomi has the winningest one, WinFest. You could make it an awesome August with a share of $500,000. Play with your rewards card for entries. Hourly drawings every Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m. $25,000 in cash and prizes each drawing. It's the $500,000 WinFest. Get in on the fun. Only at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. More info at paystake.com. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, I'm Jeff Levering alongside Gina Della from Pella.
Thanks, Jeff. How do you say welcome?
With a new entry door from Pella.
Say it with color.
Like baseball bat oak or foul pole yellow.
Say it with class.
Like following players' unwritten baseball rules.
With clarity.
Like a no-doubter shot off the scoreboard.
Or with confidence.
Like an overachieving first-place team who experts predicted would be below average this season.
Before saying welcome with your new entry door from Pella, secure an incredible deal.
Like a ruthless baseball player's agent. Here's the deal you cannot pass up.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
That's the ball game. A Pella walk-off.
Your new entry door from Pella is installed and warranted by Pella for years of comfort and durability.
Don't miss out on 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
Schedule your free and-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 8/31/2024.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back, the Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on, I got to tell you, and I know people probably get tired of hearing this. Grant, have you ever put on like a big event, been a part of like something like what we're doing with the ride and the concert and everything?
Maybe, but not in a position that you're in. Like I'm sure in lacrosse, yes, but not in charge of anything.
See, we've got a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful board of directors for Big Unit Foundation, and this is kind of all of our first go round for this. Now we still support, and money goes to Fisher House, Wisconsin, for veterans and military members and stuff. But I've never done any of this before, and so I kid you not. And this is what I do when I'm sitting here during breaks. I've got 2 full legal pads of things to check off to get done. And all of this is happening now. And so anyway, long story short, I don't want to bore people, but I just never knew the magnitude of this. And all of our people have jobs and they're volunteers. Nobody gets paid for this. None of us get paid. As a matter of fact, a lot of us put our own money into it. So I was during the break, I had like 3 phone calls to make. We're talking to the Milwaukee Fire Department, the Milwaukee Police Department. We've got some first responders actually, and I was talking about the donor and the announcement that I'm going to make coming up in the next hour. But it's all of this is happening, and all the details are flying around now because it's all becoming very, very real. The things start to shut down in the next 36 hours, and so it's like my mind is mush. Last night, I think I got to bed about 2:30 last night, and I was back up at 6 this morning and in meetings. We had meetings about meetings, and then all this different stuff. So it's the physical stuff. You got to run around. You got to get the trailers and the backstage for the bands. You got to get the green rooms and pick those up. Thanks to our friends at Marquardt RV, by the way, which is becoming a huge supporter and sponsor of the program. And then the trucks you got to pick up the trucks. And it's just all this stuff people don't see or think about. And I'm sitting here during the break, and all of a sudden I hear that says, Bill Michaels will be back in 30 seconds. And I'm like, holy crap, I have nothing. It's just, man, oh man, oh man. So anyway, we try to make it look easy, even though it's not.
You do make it look easy. We do have Charch coming up. We have Steve Zotke. We have Jesse Temple. And then in the last hour, we have Mike Sando today. So that's why we have lots of contributors today.
Yes. So today, what I'm going to do here is we're going to take a quick break because we want to make sure that we've got the maximum amount of time for Charch because he's always a wealth of information. So let's do this. Hang in there. I won't bore you anymore with my crap. Hang in there. Two things. One, Paul Charchian, going to talk some fantasy football, just football in general, coming up next. Secondly, in the next hour, you're going to want to listen. We had a terrific thing happen yesterday, and we are going to share it with you. And some of you, many of you maybe, are going to benefit from this. So make sure you're listening coming up here shortly. Don't go anywhere. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on. I am doing okay. Okay, so far. I believe, anyway. I'm going to get the official confirmation of this, but I think I'm doing okay when it comes to my fantasy draft. So far. So we're going to talk to Paul Charchian coming up here momentarily. So hang in there.
I mean, it's not going to take much. If you make it to week 2 this year, you've improved.
Right?
You've doubled your success rate from last year.
I will be the Rich Bisaccia of general managers. Yes.
You can't have a worse year this year than you did last year. In your
last year, not only was I exited after week 1, but I also lost in the worst historically low scoring competition ever in the history of the guillotine leagues that Paul has been putting together for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, Paul's been doing this a long, long time. Paul is, I don't know how he does it. Paul is one of the smartest people I know. He just is. When it comes to this kind of stuff, he's just, if you've ever had a chance to sit down and talk to him, he is freaking Rain Man when it comes to stats, statistics, numbers, players, all that kind of stuff. He's unbelievable. So he is my Rain Man when it comes to fantasy football. Paul Charchian joining us on the hotline. Paul, how you been, pal?
I've been great. It's great. We're right in the thick of fantasy drafting season. It's a fun time to be alive, and God, it's just everything's fantasy right now in my world. I love the drafting season. I love how people are into it so much. Phones blowing up with people like, "Oh, I'm on the clock."
Right.
I'm
one of
such a fun time.
And I do not want to be the Rich Bisaccia of general managers where I just get one more weekend of the season and then I get killed as far as his special teams goes. So, okay, here's my issue. And for others that are out there. So my team consists so far of Patrick Mahomes, which is always solid, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, the tight end Jake Ferguson, and Rashee Rice. Now, the problem is Rashee Rice, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Jefferson all have the bye week the same week, which I didn't realize.
And it's early. That's week 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm kind of screwed right away, and I'm going to need to make some adjustments. However, I don't have a running back yet. And so I'm sitting there looking at this going, okay, do I need a backup quarterback, another good quarterback? Should I go for a running back right now? Because you
should go for a running back right now.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I am totally cool with sloughing the running back position, which you did. Totally cool with that. But the time is now for you.
Yeah.
To start addressing that. And I'm looking at our draft board right now. Najee Harris would be a nice add for you. They give him the ball at the stripe, not Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh. You've got some available guys. Zach Moss in Cincinnati.
Right.
Nobody knows if it's going to be Zach Moss, or Chase Brown as the lead back. But the thing is, Moss has got the longer pedigree. He was really good in Indy last year in that first month of the season when he needed to carry that offense. He did. And so I lean Zach Moss here. And if you get it right, you've got the lead back on the Bengals offense. That's going to get you paid. So you could go Zach Moss and Chase Brown a round later if you want to, just knowing that you've got the security of having both guys.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I like Moss. I don't know when, the loss of Mixon. Mixon was a guy. He was a digger, man. He liked to hit hard, and when he was healthy, anyway, he was a guy that they actually utilized. And I just don't know how Zach Taylor getting Joe Burrow back is going to run that offense. That was the only question in my head, because when you got Joe Burrow, you throw the ball, but if Joe Burrow goes down, you're running the ball. So, and Jake Browning last year liked to rely upon the run game to set up that pass game. So I was kind of wondering. So there you go. That's some of my, because this is all about me just surviving and not be historically embarrassing like I was last year.
Yes. And the Guillotine League format, the reason you're sweating this bye week in week 6 is very real, because there's 18 teams in the league. So there's not a lot of depth to go around. Your backup players, everybody's backup players basically suck. So when week 6 rolls around and you're trying to replace 3 starters, that's a tall order. Now, fortunately, teams are going to get cut 5 straight weeks before that. So you're going to have options to pick people up. And I would be targeting all of those to players who can help you get past that week 6 bye.
There you go. So I'm going to be intently watching this year. I'm intently watching this because of my own embarrassment. So I want to go there. Okay. Let me ask you this. Fantasy football players are bananas. I'm looking at all the different names that are being highlighted that are out there on all the different draft boards and such, and all the funny stuff and all the political stuff that I don't really want to get into, but they're passionate about this. And you deal with this more than anybody I know.
Let me tell you about a text that I got yesterday from a guy in one of my guillotine leagues. This tells you everything you need to know about fantasy football players right here. Charge, I was helping my dad clean up trees from the storm on Monday. Now, we had a huge storm come through on Sunday. You guys may have gotten it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that happens with our weather patterns. And a 1,000-pound tree fell on me, and I thought it crushed every bone in my body. My parents miraculously lifted it off, and I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, not knowing entirely what had even happened to me. After they gave me fentanyl, I realized I was on the clock in our guillotine league, so I made my pick in the ambulance.
Yes.
I ended up with 5 fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, and a punctured lung.
Oh, my God.
But I made my pick.
That's
How do you like that?
That's passion.
Dedication.
There's got to be some kind of an award that we collectively can reach out and give that dude. You know, like we don't want to give him like a stuffed beaver or anything like that. That remind him of the tree falling on him. But something, you know, there's got to be like a gift. If he's from the Minnesota area, it's got to be a gift card to Zantigos. That's what we do.
Oh yeah, no, I like where you're going with that, and he's in St. Paul. The player he drafted, you may be wondering, while he was in the ambulance on fentanyl, was, and this was late in the draft. It's Cleveland running back Donta Foreman, who got cut the next day.
Oh, geez.
And he was like, oh, my God, I drafted this guy and he got cut. But then this morning, about an hour ago, they re-signed Donta Foreman to the Browns. And he might be part of the 1-2 punch for Cleveland. You know, they've always had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It might be a poor man's version of that with now Foreman and Jerome Ford. So he might be okay with that pick.
I love it. I love it. I love the passion. Yeah. I love the passion. Hey, give me because we're all sitting here right now between you and me. Nobody else is listening. Give me a sleeper. Right. Give me something. You know, we're talking about the running back position or a wide receiver position or a tight end, but give me a sleeper, somebody that you're looking for that nobody else is going to really know.
Yeah. Did I give you? Did we talk about Khalil Shakir last week?
We did not.
I don't think we did. Okay, so he's my favorite sleeper of this draft cycle. He's the Buffalo wide receiver, the only returning veteran starter to this team. Buffalo has 317 vacated targets with Diggs gone and Gabe Davis gone and some others gone. So here's Shakir, surrounded by a bunch of people that are new to the team. They got a rookie in Keon Coleman. Curtis Samuel's latest stop is in Buffalo. Khalil Shakir is sneaky good, and he had ascended to starter status at the end of last year. He started 8 of the last 10 games over Gabe Davis. Now, Shakir is ultra slippery after the catch. Get this. Last year, only Deebo Samuel and Rashee Rice had more yards after the catch than Khalil Shakir did. 7.3 yards after the catch. The dude's good. He's a veteran who knows the system. Josh Allen knows his strengths. He's going to be a weekly contributor to your fantasy team, Khalil Shakir.
There you go. That's some inside stuff. I love that. I saw a note that you put in there about Christian McCaffrey, because Christian McCaffrey, when you talk about running backs, like Josh Jacobs was gone early in our draft. So I'm like, damn, you know, because I really think he's going to have that resurgent kind of a Pro Bowl type of season, barring any type of injury. Christian McCaffrey is the other bell cow in the league. Are we starting to look at him going, this might be the year that you start to slow down a little bit from all the hits you've taken?
Christian McCaffrey is going number 1 in 95% of drafts.
Really?
And understandably so. He's been fantasy football's best player in back-to-back years. So I totally get why people would do that. And everybody's talking about Brandon Ayuk's holdout. But let me give you the real reason for caution here. Nobody talking about the holdout of arguably the best tackle in football, Trent Williams. You know, he is not with the team. Last year, he was Pro Football Focus's number 2 ranked run blocking offensive lineman. And Trent Williams is a principled dude. You will remember he held out a whole year in Washington when they misdiagnosed his cancer. He was like, I'm out.
Right.
And he's way richer now. He doesn't need the money at all. Bill, I'm going to play a game with you. I'm going to give you 5 names. I want you to tell me if these 5 people are San Francisco's starting offensive line right now, or if these 5 guys are in the San Francisco emo band Platypus Scourge. Ready?
Ready.
Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, and Colton McKivitz.
Well, I know Dominic Pooney was drafted. So I'm going to say I'm going to say they're the starting line of the 49ers.
That's your starting offensive line for the 49ers right there.
Jake Brendel.
That's it. Those guys that, these are not players that you feel really comfortable going to war with on your offensive line if you're taking Christian McCaffrey with the first overall pick. And I'm not necessarily saying you shouldn't. Again, he's won a lot of leagues the last 2 years, but if you want a reason to pivot to perhaps CeeDee Lamb, who the entire Dallas offense is going to go through, they might have the worst running back room in the league. This is the best reason to pivot away from Chris.
But if they are musical, they could start the band The Unknown Five. You heard it here first.
And they should. I think they should start their own band right there. Yeah, I like it.
No doubt. Hey, anything else before, because I know we got some tight end talk to get in there, but anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's probably about it.
I'm so excited for this. I can't wait for the season to get here. I am just geek. We're a week away, and damn it, I got to score points. I am so excited. I got to get through the weekend, man. But I you know what? If every point I score, expect a text. I'm gonna charge. Where am I at? Am I doing okay? That type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. You download the Guillotine League app. You'll be following along on live scoring. And 1 week from today, we're going to be breaking down real football. Chiefs and Ravens. 1 week from today. Unbelievable.
Real quick, optimism in Minneapolis. I heard Paul Allen the other day said that he thought that if things fall the right way, they could end up with 10 wins in Minnesota. Or is Paul
everything would have to fall the right way to get to 10 wins. Right. I think the probability is about half that realistically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
This is why you're the man, man.
It's a quarterback-driven league, and we got Sam Darnold.
I know you're a Manny's fan, but I also know you're a Calderon Club fan. We're going to head down there on Saturday night, so I wanted you to at least, if you're in town for visiting the daughter.
Yeah, I was there. I drove by the Calderon Club Saturday. I tried to hook up with you for that. Did not work out. Did the big drop off at MSOE with my daughter.
Did you do the dad cry thing? I was going to say.
We got close.
Yeah,
we didn't. There was not blubbering, but we had a moment.
Right.
And what a beautiful campus. I'm really excited that my daughter will be downtown Milwaukee. I'll have all these opportunities to come see you, which will be great.
Yep.
And Milwaukee. I don't know Milwaukee intimately, but what I do know is that side of downtown where I always seem to be near the Pabst Theater and by Fiserv and everything else is awesome.
Paul, always great, my friend. I appreciate it. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Thanks, pal.
Man. Bye-bye.
There you go. The great Paul Charchian. Hang in there. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it would be Brewers starting pitcher Freddie Peralta pitching 6 scoreless innings, while William Contreras kept a 5-run 5th inning with a 2-run homer as the Brewers would beat the Giants 5-3 last night at American Family Field. The Brewers sit 9 games above the Cubs for first place in the NL Central and will have their rubber match against the Giants this afternoon. First pitch is at 1:10. Turning to the Packers, they were back on the practice field yesterday after cutting their roster down to 53 men. That included new backup quarterback Malik Willis. Coach Matt LaFleur was asked if he could get up to speed with this new team.
We will see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes today. And he's a pretty smart guy. We've had an opportunity to meet with him. And it's not like you're getting a rookie in here. He does have, obviously, a foundation. And it's just translating what he's learned in the past and putting it into our terms and then coaching him on the run. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and when we have to play our game.
Meanwhile, the team also addressed their kicker situation, claiming Braden Narveson off of waivers from Tennessee. The rookie went 6 for 7 in preseason, including hitting from 59 yards out. The Packers cut veteran Greg Joseph to make room.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the 3rd largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Game day is fast approaching for Wisconsin football. We are 1 day away from when they face Western Michigan at Camp Randall. They'll be opening up under the lights at home for the first time since 2018. Kick, that's at 8 o'clock. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Welcome in, one and all. Loving today. Loving a day. I am, look at this. Well, you can't see it yet. Now you can see it. Look at that. I got goosebumps. That kind of day today. I'm excited. Brewers get a win last night, and you want to download the app today, WOZN, The Zone Madison, if you haven't already. If you're not listening to us on the website, thebillmichaels.com off of the desktop or something like that, or watching us on YouTube at youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. Brewers day baseball today. You got a day game, so you're going to lose this next hour-ish, and you want to make sure you stay right here. You can still watch the game, but you can still listen to us. So download the app, WOZN, The Zone Madison, or just go to YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show and just click subscribe. It's free. God knows we're not charging you for this crap. So go ahead and subscribe there. And then when we go on the air, it'll pop right up. You can watch us. You can listen to us, or you can just go swipe us just like you would an ugly person, so to speak, on a dating app, and just swipe us off and say, not going to put up with that crap today. But we always appreciate it when you do. And you can also find us on Instagram or Facebook.com, either way, /The Bill Michaels Show. You can follow us over there on TikTok as well. And then there is the Twitch app, the Kick app, LinkedIn apps. There's so many places to find the program. Email the program, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. The text line is on fire, and I love it. 608-321-1670, 608-321-1670. We'll try to get all your comments in today as well. Coming up in the next segment, not this one, but the next one, we've got a really cool announcement and an ask coming up. So you're not going to want to go anywhere. Because I get a lot of people that ask me about the event, about the ride, about the party, about the concert, about everything we got going on this weekend. And we had a really wonderful person do something special. And so it's going to benefit a lot of people. So I'm hoping you're hanging around for this coming up here in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere. In the meantime, for those that didn't hear last hour, we want you to hear this hour. Matt LaFleur was at the podium yesterday, and he was asked about his new kicker. And now, again, you believe that it's an upgrade. We had talked about it at the time. We said, look, how many times did myself, Grant, our guest, Pete Doherty, Bill Huber the other day, you can go through the whole list of people we've had on the program. How many times did we say, you know what? The current kicker for the Green Bay Packers may not be on this roster, right? Because all things being equal and subpar, you kind of felt that maybe they would go in a different direction. And
not to pat ourselves on the back, by the way, but we were the first show saying that. I keep an eye on what others are saying. And weeks later, everyone was like, well, just something to consider. Maybe the kicker isn't on the roster. It's like, wow, we were saying that.
We were asking that question specifically to all the people that cover the team on the daily. We talked to Mike Clemens. Mike Clemens even said he thought, you know what, there might be an outside chance that the guy that's going to be kicking for the Packers might not be on this roster. So I didn't know we were the first to say it, but certainly logic goes and thought process goes. We'll take the win. We'll do the victory lap. We'll take it.
And we lag behind on lots of other things. But I'm saying on this thing, I think we were one of the first.
On other stuff, we're full of crap. Our eyes are brown. We're good that way. But the rest of it, we'll take it. Love it. So anyway, that being said, so you kind of look at the kicking situation and you say, all right, Matt, I just don't know if this kicking thing and this special teams thing is kind of working out. So the question was posed about getting a new kicker again, your fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh one coming into the system. Now they're going to go with this guy, a guy that other than tape, they've never seen. Here's Matt LaFleur's response.
Not a question for me. That is a question for Rich Bisaccia.
Is a razor-thin difference between winning and losing.
Oh, I'm well aware of this. This is uncharted territory, I would say, that I've been in my time in the league. So it's just, you just got to come in and perform. I don't know how else to put it, and but it's definitely a unique situation.
There you go. That's a question for Rich Bisaccia. And then he's like, I'm well aware of what's going on, of the razor thin margin for error in special teams. You don't notice special teams until it goes wrong. When it goes wrong, 9 times out of 10, it costs you a game.
Which, by the way, we're only a couple months removed from Matt LaFleur saying, I just pray when he goes out there. You know what I mean? Yes. It's not like Matt LaFleur hasn't had strong commentary about the kicking situation before. And I don't think he ever intended for that to get out. And I know he felt a little bit, who is it? Tom Rinaldi on Fox. Maybe he didn't think he would share that, but it's not like Matt LaFleur is held his tongue when talking about kickers before, put it that way.
So that being said, it sounds like, and the more I think about it, I think I'm going to lean in your direction. I'm going to acquiesce to you, Grant, and what you were talking about last night on your show. It sounds more like this is the reason we brought in Rich Bisaccia to fix this stuff, and it's not fixed. And it's not necessarily I can't believe Gutey's bringing in another guy and the guy we haven't seen, and it's right before we, get ready for our season. That's not it. That's not it. I think it might be more like, you're right, that's a question for Rich. I'm well aware of the problems we've had. I'm well aware of the points we've left on the field. I'm well aware of the razor-thin margin for error when it comes to winning and losing in the National Football League. And I know that this has to be correct. And this is the reason we're paying this guy, what was it, $8 million or something like that? Wasn't it like over like a 4-year period? Like $8 million?
I looked it up yesterday, and this stuff isn't public, but I think it's somewhere around $2 million a year. He's the number one paid special teams coordinator. He's also, to be fair to Bisaccia, I think he provides value in other places. He's the assistant head coach, and I think he's a voice and someone that a lot of players respect and go up to, and that's great. But that's not what we're talking about. Like, we were brought in first and foremost to fix the special teams, and they've mostly been crummy.
So I would agree with you that's where Matt LaFleur's, if you want to say, frustration comes in, where he keeps looking at this thing going, we've talked about this. It's not much better. They went from 22 to 29 after being dead last in the league. We kind of suck swamp water at this point. So, we're well aware of the problem that we are facing right now. So, and I get it. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. Again, 877-867-1670. So when you talk about kickers and you looked at what they say did last year in the 2023 season, it wasn't good. And when you talk about the rankings for kickers and special teams and kickoffs and punts and coverage and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't good. Wasn't good at all last year. It wasn't the worst, but they digressed. Or regressed, I should say. So, I'm sure Matt LaFleur is like, God, I'm just so sick of talking about special teams. You want to talk about the positive. You want to talk about, granted, there's some things you don't want to get into, injuries. It is concerning, the second stinger for A.J. Dillon. We talked about it yesterday. First of all, you want the quality of life there, because once it starts happening, it becomes problematic. And anytime you're talking about a stinger, for those that don't know, is basic, because I got asked that yesterday when I was off the air. I had a meeting and I walked in. They said, hey, do me a favor. Tell me what a stinger is. If you've ever played football and you've gotten just your bell rung, you lower your head and you just bang, and you feel that, like, it feels like your body's filled with bees for a minute or two. And you're like, bzz, and you're like, wow. And you can even lose feeling in your fingers and toes and legs. And it's basically where you can have like a pressure point in your neck or in your vertebrae, a disc that can push, much like what Christian Yelich had fixed. You're going to get a disc that can get pushed in on your spinal cord, and it sends like a shockwave through your system. But once it happens, it's more likely to happen again. because that disc, that fluidity within that spinal column and that vertebrae has been moved. Maybe it bounces forward and backwards, like it goes back into place, but the likelihood of it happening again begins to then increase. So this is a second stinger. If it happens in your neck and then that doesn't go back to where it was, it doesn't settle back, whatever that disc is or the movement of the vertebrae or whatever, if that doesn't move back into its original position, it can be painful and debilitating for a long time and may need to be surgically repaired. And anytime you're talking about the neck, it could end your career. You don't need to look any further than, say, Nick Collins, Jermichael Finley, those types of injuries that have to be surgically repaired and then cannot sustain another hit, that your career's done. So could that be the end of the career for A.J. Dillon? Quite possibly. They had the ability to put him on the injured list with the, whatever they call it, with the, possibility of coming
designation
back. Designation to return. Thank you very much. Yes. The designation to come back, to return. And they chose not to do that. So this is, I don't know, this has got to be pretty severe. It's got to be pretty severe for something like this to take him out already before the season, for the best shape he's ever come into camp in, for the anticipation, the optimism, everything that he was bringing to the table, for him to sustain that stinger, and then to say not only, are we going to put you on the list, but you're going to be on the list. Your season's over. It's got to be significant. So, I'm and again going through the injuries. I'm sure Matt LaFleur wants to talk about guys on the field, depth of positions. He'd rather talk about anything but injuries and special teams. It just, after a while, becomes just a burr under your saddle. That's it. And that's what special teams have been. Now, if Braden Narvison is the guy, and suddenly you don't get asked about special teams anymore, and it's more so about the optimism for the return game, the rule changes, coverage units, the ascension of your special teams unit in general, that's a wonderful thing to talk about. But if he has to keep talking about the negatives of special teams, I'm sure this is the kind of thing that just pisses him off in the middle of the night, just keeps the one eye open, because you're just trying to figure out a way how to fix it and try to get it right again. Because like that, yeah, exactly. He's probably calling Rich in the middle of the night going, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?" Rich is like, "Hell, I don't know." Damn it, Rich, I thought you had this figured out. Me too. Don't know. They're texting back and forth. Their wives are getting mad. Who are you texting in the middle of the night? That better not be another woman. No, it's Rich Bisaccia. I got to figure out my special teams. There you go. So anyway, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. JJ said, who's going to be the number 3 running back? I'm sure they're going to address 3. Oh, you're going to go with Emmanuel Wilson. He's going to be your number 3. Wouldn't you figure, Grant? Number 3, Emmanuel. I mean, they really don't have anybody else, right?
He might be, I mean, depending on Marshawn Lloyd's injury, he might be number 2 right at the start of the year. And look, if he takes a little bit of a step from where he was last year, I think he was just a tick below rotational second string, third string running back last year. But if he can be a little bit better than he was last year and take a step in pass catching and pass protection, I think they're probably fine.
Yeah.
Assuming Josh Jacobs is healthy. If Josh Jacobs gets hurt, then they're probably cooked. But that was true last year with Aaron Jones too.
With Marshawn Lloyd, you're right. With him being nicked up, that's Emmanuel. It's Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs. I mean, right now you look at the running back position, and again, we talk about this. You're only an injury or 2 away from going from a plethora to thin, and now they're thin. You get an injury to any of these guys, and now you're thin. So that becomes difficult. And you only got a couple of running backs. I think you have 2, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on the practice squad. Ellis Merriweather is back. And I think, who's the other one? Is it Nate McCrary? Nate McCrary.
I think they got him back, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. You got those 2 guys.
Were you surprised that, so I thought Pratt and Welch and Jones, I thought a couple of those guys would be back on the Packers practice squad, and they elected, no, I'm going to go sign somewhere else. Is that a surprise? I guess that's not something that I really thought about. I just assumed.
I think they liked Pratt and his arm. I question, now again, this is just a text message that I got that said Pratt was not, how do I put this? The offense is complex. You to play quarterback, you got to be pretty smart. You know, a lot of people get into the league because they got a big arm, they got a lot of athleticism and a lot of versatility. However, To go from a good athlete to being a really good quarterback, you need it between the ears. My thought was that there was some assumption that maybe he was not getting it as fast as they wanted him to. Sean Clifford, who showed some bad tendencies in the preseason, I think Matt LaFleur even addressed this. Those are fixable. Some of the things that he was doing are fixable. And he's done it before where he sees it, he gets it, he understands it. So some things were more maybe mechanical and, looking off coverage, looking in different directions, recognizing certain things. He understands how to run the offense and what it's supposed to be. Whereas maybe Clifford or Pratt was not as absorbing of the offense, we shall say.
Well, and when they acquired Malik Willis, too, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
He was at the very best going to be number 3. So maybe he thought, well, I want to try my luck elsewhere, which is fine. I figured we always assume, well, they'll be back in the practice squad.
Yeah.
Well, not if they clear waivers and they want to go somewhere else.
It's human nature. Somebody's going to let you go and say, hey, but we really like you. We appreciate it. If we get an opportunity, we'll bring you back. Where somebody else is like, man, we really love to have you. You want to go where you're loved, where you're wanted. And you don't have really much negotiation when it comes to your contract. If you want to stay in the game, you've got a couple of options. That's about it. So I'm not surprised he signed somewhere else. Especially, like you said, if he's going to be looking at the back end of a roster where he doesn't really have a legitimate shot, short of mass injuries, to play in the NFL. So we'll see. All right, let's do this. Coming up next, I do want to get into this, and it's going to take a little bit of time, so I don't want to belabor the fact, but we had a great gesture yesterday, and I hope you can be the benefactor of this. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at ESOR Realty Group. ESOR stands for Excellent Service Equaling Outstanding Results. Ben Jarvis, 23 years in the armed services. 23 years. Got out. Still a young dude, man. And then started ESOR Realty Group, and he's been successful with it, even through this tough time when it comes to the housing market and such. If you're looking to buy, if you're looking for a rental property, if you're looking for a condo or to sell any of those, he's your guy. 414-721-6233, 414-721-6233. That's Ben Jarvis from ESORgroup.com. That's ESORgroup.com.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Everybody knows if it's summer season, it's festival season. And Potawatomi has the winningest one, WinFest. You could make it an awesome August with a share of $500,000. Play with your rewards card for entries. Hourly drawings every Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m. $25,000 in cash and prizes each drawing. It's the $500,000 WinFest. Get in on the fun. Only at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. More info at paysbig.com. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. Got to say thanks to our great sponsors, our good friends out there. It's Big Boar Barbecue. Lunches, dinners, catering right now. Doesn't that sound good? Starting to creep into the midday. Hell yeah. Lunches, dinners, catering. All you got to do is call. Go to BigBoarBBQ.com, 608-612-0387. That is 608-612-0387 in West Salem, just a little bit outside of the La Crosse area. But if you want to go to BigBoarBBQ.com, you can see all that they have to offer and get your mouth watering because they do cater. So if you want to do something for your staff for work today or maybe tomorrow, good feel good Friday, getting into the Labor Day weekend, hell yes, that's a great way to go. And bring a little summer in. It's always, it's always rib time. That's for sure. Whether it's the ribs, the pulled pork, the chicken, you dry rub, sauced up. The mac and cheese, so good. That's BigBoarBBQ.com. All right. I've been waiting all day to do this. I'm so excited to do this. So yesterday, we were in one of our meetings, kind of pre-production for the concert coming up. And we had a person of substance that said, hey, I want to buy some tickets. I said, okay, great. And they did. And when the order came through, it was a large order, a rather large order. And I got an email back saying, Bill, we purchased this amount of tickets, and we want you to do two things with it. One is we want you to give the tickets to first responders. The second thing is whatever's left over that can't be used, they're going to use some of the tickets, but whatever you can't be used for people that support, the program, support not necessarily just the program, but like support us, some of our sponsors and such, give the tickets to them to make sure that they can use those as well. It's a great cause. We appreciate you, blah, blah, blah. And thank you, which blew us away. So this is I didn't, this came through at 7:00 last night. I don't know how to do this, So I went on Facebook last night to some just random people and just said, hey, if you want to go to the concert, let me know. And people didn't believe it. They thought I was like a bot account or something like that. I actually went live last night, if you were following me, because it was all screwed up. I wasn't even prepared for it. I just did it to do it. But I went live last night just to say, this is real. This is me telling you this is real. So this is what I want to do. And Grant, you're about to get inundated. So If
what is this? Do I know what we're about to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right.
So there's two ways. There's two ways to get a hold of me. Okay. You can email me, thebillmichaels@gmail.com, thebillmichaels@gmail.com, or you can call Grant and he can get the information to me. But if you are a military member, family member of, first responder, and you look at that, my phone's blowing up again with people that are already calling. But you got to use the tickets. That's the one thing that this donor asked, that they wanted to make sure that you could use the tickets. If you want to go to the concert on Sunday at whatever time, the first band, Six Pack Sammy, takes the stage at 1:30. I think it's like 3:30 or 4. You've got the ZZ Top cover band called Eliminator. They go on stage. Then Danny Coker, a.k.a. The Count from the show Counting Cars, takes the stage later after that. Then I think it's about 6 o'clock or 6:30. Lita Ford takes the stage. I think it's 6:30. And then at, I think 8:30 is when Jackal takes the stage. And it's just a whole day of rock music, whole day of just a lot of fun. and there's going to be food trucks. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. But if you want to go, and I mean, you don't just take them to take them. They want you to use them. And there's going to be a reason why when we're there coming up on Sunday. So if you're a first responder, military member, veteran, family member of, and you want to go, and maybe you either couldn't afford it or you've been thinking about it, you're not quite sure, call us 877-867-1670. Call Grant, name and number, and or just email me directly and I'll respond probably within the next couple of hours. thebillmichaels@gmail.com. thebillmichaels@gmail.com. And you'll find out why coming up on Sunday. But we'd love for you to join us. And this person was extremely kind, and we'll take as many as we can until the tickets run out. But I offered to the Milwaukee Firefighters page, to some veteran pages. But if you're a Legion Hall and you want to send some people, if you're, whatever, we just want to make sure that we honor the request, and that's to get it to veterans, first responders, family members of, and such. So what a cool thing. What a cool thing. So what an honor. I mean, it's one of those things where you put something together. Obviously you want to make money. You want to raise funds for the charity. Okay. And like I said, everybody on our board, nobody's paid. And as a matter of fact, they pay because they put their love, heart, sweat, and soul and their money into this. We've got donations from our friends at the Water Doctors. I know that James Mercado and the gang at Veterans America, they're putting together the awards. Our friends Jeff and the gang down at Palermo's, they've done things for us as well. Ben Jarvis from ESOR Realty Group, they've spent time and money on certain things. I mean, it is what it is. So it's just kind of cool that somebody steps up and does that. You kind of get rewarded for that. But it was really nice. It was a terrific gesture. So anyway, that being said, and thank you, by the way, for registration. We're approaching an all-time record pre-registration for the motorcycle ride as well. Now, this ticket, by the way, does not get you on the motorcycle ride. So if you're thinking about riding, you still have to come down, and that's different. That's a separate entity, so to speak, but that's what it is. So there you go. So we wanted to make sure we got that. So good stuff. We're going to talk some Badger football. Badgers are only one day away from opening up their season, and we can't wait for college football to get underway. Jesse Temple is going to be joining us coming up after the bottom of the hour break here. But let Grant know if you want to go. Give us a shout. But you got to go. You got to go. Right? There you go. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We'll take a quick break. Come back. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Just the atmosphere. I'm excited to play in front of this crowd, and excited to just get out there with my teammates. We've been practicing all year long, working together on the field in the weight room. I think we built great communication, a great bond off the field as well. So just excited to get out there and play.
Good to have you back. Who is now Jesse Temple joining us, and on part of the camp podcast with our guy Zach Heilprin. Zach is doing more shows, I think, than we are at this point. He's got stuff going on with Thorson and Heilprin coming up at Monk's. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I didn't realize until today that Thorson was Ebo, because he's used his last name maybe once in the 4 or 5 years that I've known him. I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Yeah, that's Ebo. Yeah. And Jesse's been on that show as well. But yeah, Zach, that'll pick up tonight at Monk's in Sun Prairie.
There you go. So you've got that happening tonight. In the meantime, Jesse Temple joining us from The Athletic, and he's got the camp podcast as well. Jesse, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Game week, Bill. How are you?
It is game week. Are you feeling it? I mean, if you ever played sports as a kid, even though you're not playing them now, you kind of get amped up because you know what they're going through. You know the excitement. You know the anticipation, the adrenaline. So, but as a writer, as somebody who covers it, I still get amped up on day one. It's kind of like Happy New Year,
It's fun to see the product for the first time after writing about him for 8 or 9 months. I don't know that I can say I feel the excitement that I did when I used to play college basketball, but this is as good as it gets if you're not playing the game.
Right. Which I completely agree and I understand. So let's talk about this team, because nobody's talking about this team in the Big Ten other than just saying, oh, by the way, Wisconsin happens to be on certain people's schedule. They're kind of looked at as just get out of our way and let us finish the Big Ten season, aren't they?
I guess it depends on the perspective. I mean, they're not some doormat that people think are going to go 0-12 and be 4-touchdown underdogs. They've got Alabama in week 3, and if they win, it puts everyone on notice that this is a team to be reckoned with. They were still picked to finish 7th in the Big Ten, which I know is not what we've become accustomed to. They were generally picked to win the Big Ten West. The problem is the last 4 years, they didn't win the West. They started each year in the top 25 and ended up unranked. So they're in kind of a prove-it mode, but I think they have the talent to be able to compete with any of these teams on the roster. It's just a matter of whether it will materialize this season.
That's okay. Let me ask you this, because you then feel that this roster has been upgraded significantly, correct?
Yeah, it's much better, I think, across the board than it was a year ago.
With the offense, now I always say it's like when you come in as a new head coach and a new philosophy compared to what it was in the past, because we know going all the way back to the Barry Alvarez days, this thing was predominantly a big offensive line. You moved guys around. You had road graders. You had a great run game, 1 or 2 good running backs, throw the ball out of necessity, and then play staunch defense. That's what it's been. Now you've got what's supposed to be the air raid offense, a more versatile, speedy type of team. You're looking for more athleticism. It's kind of like turning around a cruise ship. You can't do it in the first day or in the first hour, but in the second hour, you finally get the thing turned back around and you're moving in the right direction. That's kind of what this year feels like for me. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair analogy there, Bill. And Luke Fickell has talked about this. Year one, I don't think he really realized the type of challenge it was going to be, because he just did not know about this team and this program other than what he thought he knew from afar. And obviously they had to overhaul some things. They've got a little bit different coaching staff, a little bit different philosophy. They wanted to improve the leadership. It does feel like things have happened a little bit more smoothly here this offseason entering year 2. But I think we overestimated the challenge that Luke and this staff was going to face when they came in here. It wasn't just, hey, they're implementing a new system. Luke had success at Cincinnati. It's immediately going to translate.
Well, that's just it. I mean, he came in with the success from Cincinnati, of which he put Cincinnati in a BCS game. And most people kind of went, whatever, Cincinnati. But he did something that, look, I'm from that area. Nobody gave 2 damns about UC football for a long time. Brian Kelly kind of put him on the map. You go through some coaches. Tuberville drove him right back into the ditch again. And then along comes Luke Fickell, who did miraculous things. And not only that, but also endeared himself to every high school football program in that area. So that's why I think there's so much optimism for what Luke Fickell can do here, because we know that, football obviously is a way of life here in this area, but we all know it begins and ends with a guy like Tyler Van Dyke and the ability to get the ball downfield, the weapons around him, the running game, Ches Malusi being healthy for an entire season. So I go back to what it is you said. It's like, look, there's nobody's doormat, but this thing could go 1 of 2 ways, maybe quickly, if they end up beating Alabama, right?
Obviously, if they beat a top 5 team, that changes the trajectory on the season and how everybody perceives this team. And I don't think it's an impossibility. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I think they're at a point in this program where, like I've said before, they're going to have to show me and everybody else that they can do it. They have not earned the benefit of the doubt. I would say I think most fans are pretty reasonable and realistic, and the expectation is 8-4, 7-5. We did a athletic survey with Badgers fans for readers, and we had about 1,000 voters, and 8-4 and 7-5 were the top 2 answers. That's kind of where I fall in line. I do think, though, that it depends. The record is a challenge in terms of how you evaluate this team, because it also depends on how they perform in some of these upper echelon types of matchups to demonstrate they're showing progress. I also think the fan base has some patience here, because Luke and the staff have upgraded the roster, obviously through the transfer portal, but through recruiting, and it may not show up this season in terms of like a 9-3 type of season, but as long as they're moving in the right direction, it feels like progress is being made.
And that's just it, because if they say they go 8-4, they pretty much win every game they're supposed to, and then one that maybe was a questionable game that many people last year would have looked at as a loss, right? Which would then indicate progress. To me, I think 8-4 is kind of like where this program needs to be to show the progress. But let's say they get 9 wins. Three losses are not going to put you, I would assume, in the playoffs. But if you get one of those wins against an Alabama or against an Oregon, that changes your trajectory, specifically if you beat Oregon towards the end of the season to give you that 9th win. Does that help them, in your opinion, then, to put them up near that top 12 moniker?
So I'm with you completely on the thought that if they go 8-4, that feels like the progress they need to make, the threshold they need to get to after consecutive 7 and 6 seasons, and really just this program not being where it once was 5+ years ago. The 9-win thing is interesting, and I wrote about this today on The Athletic about why Wisconsin is likely to benefit from the 12-team college football playoff era. You just go back since the BCS era started in 1998, and then you include the last decade of the 4-team college football playoff era. Wisconsin would have made a 12-team playoff in 8 different seasons, and yet the Badgers never made a playoff or a national championship game under the previous format. And the way that this structure is in place now, with Wisconsin being in the Big Ten, which is one of the 2 biggest conferences in college football right now, you can go 9-3 and have a legitimate chance because you don't have to even make the Big Ten championship game anymore. 3 or 4 Big Ten teams could get into the playoff. And if you are in the 9-3 range, yes, I think they have a chance. Now, it's not a slam dunk, but I go back to even 3 years ago, Paul Chryst 2021 team. The Badgers were number 14 in the CFP top 25 going into the regular season finale against Minnesota as an 8-3 team, despite being 2-3 against top 25 opponents. And obviously, Wisconsin lost to Minnesota, didn't win the Big Ten West, and we know what happened from there. But the point is, if you're 9-3 and you've got a couple of those wins, you avoid bad losses, just like kind of building an NCAA tournament resume, it's not out of the realm of possibility to be in the playoff conversation.
Here's the other thing. If you, say, have a couple of losses and you're heading to the Big Ten title game, you may not want to go to the Big Ten title game. That would put another loss in your resume, right?
Yeah, that's out there too. Let's say you're hanging in there at 10th or something like that. Yes. I mean, that is another facet to this whole thing, but that's a conversation for another day. And if Wisconsin should be in that position, they should be thankful because it means they've reached the level that people have been growing desperate for here the last couple of years. So they're not there yet, but I think that the pieces are in place for them to just be in the conversation here as things move along under Fickell.
So give me your thoughts where this team is at, because we talk so much about the talent. You and I have discussed it almost ad nauseum as far as the talent level that this team has increased. Give me your thoughts on guys' positions that have shined through camp to say, look, there's a jump here from last year to this year.
Well, I think the running back room is much deeper so that if an injury should happen like it did last year, they might be in better position to weather it. I legitimately believe they have 6 running backs that are capable of contributing. Now, can they contribute at a 1,000-yard rushing level? That remains to be seen, but they got Tawee Walker from Oklahoma. They have 2 4-star freshmen that are in there that could be contributors. So that's one. The Tyler Van Dyke one is interesting. I think his ceiling is very high, and it's a big if. If he can replicate what he did 3 years ago as ACC Rookie of the Year, then Wisconsin has a chance in a lot of these big-time games. But a lot of us are just waiting around to see whether it materializes because of what has happened the last 2 years. And, you can go down the line. I think the wide receiver group has an opportunity to be a little bit better. They have to prove it. The offensive line, the top 5, I think have a chance to be better. The problem is if they have injuries, then you're really leaning on some inexperienced guys, and I don't think they can afford to do that. I think what we've talked about a lot is defensively, particularly at the linebacker spots. That's where it feels like they've upgraded the most through the transfer portal with guys that better fit Mike Tressel's system, and I think that is why this defense has a chance to be better. Unfortunately for Wisconsin, James Thompson Jr., the starting defensive lineman, potentially will be out for the season. And that's a big blow because defensive line to me was the biggest question positionally going into the season, and now it's an even bigger question.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Give me your thoughts on Tressel as a defensive coordinator. I know there's been so much success, obviously, with defense for Wisconsin in the past. Tressel comes in. It wasn't this. They had a little bit of issues last year in the secondary, not nearly as much pressure as they wanted to create up front. Give me your thoughts on Tressel as a defensive coordinator.
Well, I think he's an excellent defensive coordinator. He was along for the ride there at Cincinnati when they went to the playoffs. They just, I don't think, had the personnel that they needed last year. And for whatever reason, this defense struggled to adjust. It was like they were on their heels and reacting rather than, going and attacking things a year ago. But he's very willing to change things, to create different pressures, to put different packages out there. Some packages that we didn't necessarily see under previous Wisconsin regimes. Obviously, they had a ton of success defensively under the previous defensive coordinator. So there's a high bar here. But I think Tressel is the right coach in place. And I'm really intrigued to see how he tries to maximize some of these players' skill sets because you're going to see some different packages where you've got 3 inside linebackers on the field. Maybe one of them's coming off the edge. Maybe you have 6 defensive backs on the field, which we saw a little bit last year. So, I think year 2 we'll see progress defensively.
Last question before we go. We were just sitting here talking about the Packers and special teams. How much better are the special teams going to be this year for the Badgers?
I think they'll be improved. It's hard to say whether it'll be substantially better from a kicking standpoint. Nathaniel Vakos has been pretty solid from about 50, 52 yards and in. He suffered an injury last year, and that prevented them from really going after some of those longer kicks. And that's going to be a big difference. Atticus Bertrams is a second-year punter. I think he struggled a bit last year. He feels like he's been better. I've seen him boom some pretty big punts in the preseason. From a return game, they've got guys who have done it, but you want explosive playmakers. So I think the jury's still out from a special teams perspective.
Always great. Jesse, look forward to talking to you each and every week. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon. Go to The Athletic, read his stuff, and you just talked about kind of the wins and losses and such, the overall looking into this season, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Excellent stuff. Jesse, we'll talk to you again next week, okay?
Thanks, Bill.
Appreciate it, pal. There you go. Jesse Temple for The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com. You can find his stuff there. Good to talk to him. I'm optimistic. I think 8 shows progress. 7 wins, kind of a yawner. 8 progress. 9 significant progress. And some exciting times. That means they'd end up 9-3 on the season. Then you can pick those 3 losses, and then what we go back to when we started looking at this, you're kind of thinking to yourself, the first couple, tomorrow night, Western Michigan, South Dakota, you got to win those games. You've got Purdue you should win, Rutgers and again, some of these games are not easy. They're not cakewalks, but teams you should beat. Rutgers, Northwestern at Northwestern, Nebraska, who's, again, looking to make a statement this year, and we'll see if it actually happens, and in Minnesota, right? So those games right there, that's 7 wins. Now, which one is going to be your 8th? USC on the road? Penn State at home? Oregon at home? Iowa on the road? A win of that substance gets you the 8th win. So you've got one of those wins that gives you excitement. Now you get to 9 wins. And that means you're either knocking off Alabama, Penn State, let's just say they beat Iowa at Iowa, or Oregon. One of those 3 teams. If you get to 9 wins, one of those, that's the only thing that's left, because then you're talking about beating USC on the road. God forbid you get to 10. That means you beat Penn State, Oregon, or Alabama, and only had 2 losses on the season. Whew. That's a chunk. That's optimism right there. All right, let's do this. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. Stay tuned. Whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, I'm Jeff Levering alongside Gina Della from Pella.
Thanks, Jeff. How do you say welcome?
With a new entry door from Pella.
Say it with color.
Like baseball bat oak or foul pole yellow?
Say it with class.
Like following players' unwritten baseball rules.
With clarity.
Like a no-doubter shot off the scoreboard?
Or with confidence.
Like an overachieving first-place team who experts predicted would be below average this season.
Before saying welcome with your new entry door from Pella, secure an incredible deal.
Like a ruthless baseball player's agent. Here's the deal you cannot pass up.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
That's the ball game. A Pella walk-off.
Your new entry door from Pella is installed and warranted by Pella for years of comfort and durability.
Don't miss out on 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
Schedule your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 8/31/2024.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show on this Thursday edition.
I was always a crazy one, broke into the stadium.
Boy, a lot of great people have either gotten a hold of us themselves or have nominated some people that are first responders or veterans and such that are deserving of the tickets to go to the concert this weekend that we're putting on after the motorcycle ride. Thanks to everybody. And keep the names and numbers coming. Whether you want to get a hold of Grant and he can pass it along to me, 877-867-1670, or you can just email me directly, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. But yes, this is for real. We had one person step up and say, hey, I want to do this. So really cool thing.
And by the way, if you got to check with someone that you know who might be interested, like you can call later in the show. You can call tomorrow too. Yeah. Like I'm sitting here by the phone, so it doesn't have to. It's not like this segment and this segment only. Check in if you need to check with some friends or anything like that. Just give me a call whenever.
Yep. It's put it this way. I've got a little bit more than a handful, and like I said, I reached out to a bunch of different veterans groups. I reached out to the firefighters. I reached out to the police officers, the state patrol, some of their sites online. And just said, hey, we'd love to have you in the audience, through a donation. And it's just so cool that somebody takes the time to do something like that. So if you want to go, and you got to use them, that's the only thing is we want you to use them. We don't want you to just take them to take them. But you got to use them. And come on out and join us. It's going to be a tremendous, tremendous night. So a lot of fun. 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, that's the phone number to get a hold of us. Got a lot of people chiming in over on the text line. We're going back to the kicking situation. Mark in La Crosse says the one thing about it is I was always confident when Mason Crosby was kicking. Don't have the same level of confidence. I don't think right now. I think the kicking game is probably the hold your breath moment of just about every game. And out of the 920, Joe in Green Bay says Mason Crosby turns 40 next month. Plenty of leg left. He knows every stadium and the pressure. 40? I thought he was older than that. I thought he was like 41 last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because he was one of the older guys on the team last year. Now he's 39 years old. I had to search myself. He's 39. He's going to be, he'll be 40 in like 5-6 days on September 3rd. He'll be 40. So, yeah, I thought he was 42. I thought he was like out of it. But didn't Vinatieri kick till he was like 41?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But people pointed that out on my show. It's like, yeah, well, Brady played until he was however old, all these guys' bodies are different. So just because other kickers have kicked into their mid-40s doesn't mean Crosby necessarily can.
Right. It's all about being in shape and leg strength. That's it. Your swing, all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure Mason Crosby tried to maybe keep in shape a little bit, especially if teams start looking for kickers. But last year on kickoffs there was a significant drop-off. He was putting it either at the goal line or barely inside the end zone, which was returnable. But now that plays into your favor if you're a team looking for a guy that can kick. So, but at this point, you'd have to hear from Mason Crosby if indeed he is in shape and ready to go. You'd have to hear from him. What else do we have here? Oh God, he's talking about Paul Charchian when we had Charchian. It's Sam from the M&M area. The M&M game is this Friday. Still having Charge on Thursdays. This is awesome. The M&M game is, I think it's either the oldest or the second oldest football rivalry in the country, dating back, I think, over 100 years. It is Menominee Marinette, and it's happening tomorrow night. And it is both sides of the border turn out up there in the Menominee Marinette area. The whole town turns out. It's a spectacular. I think it's actually, you take that back. Is it Saturday? I think no, he says it's this Friday. It used to be on like a Saturday when I'd go up and be a part of the broadcast on both sides, because our friends at WMAM, they are the ones that carry it. And they've got two different broadcasts going at the same time. As a matter of fact, it's pretty cool to go from booth to booth to do kind of, color analyst, so to speak. But I love the M&M game. I got it. And then you go to the Colonel's Pasty Shop. You got to make a stop there. Or what is it? Lou's hamburger place. God, I can't think of the name of it. I know Jim Gallo's listening. Jim, if you're listening, let me know. I can't remember. But it's a great time up there in Menominee Marinette. Going to go ahead and take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. A lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, we're just a day out from the start of the football season for the Badgers. They're going to get things going tomorrow night against Western Michigan. Broncos bring a new offensive and defensive coordinator to the game, further increasing the unknown for a week one game in college football. Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell said one of the areas they struggled last year was in adapting to what an opponent was doing. That's been a focus this offseason.
As things change within a game, as things change from the start of a game, because I felt like last year we were really good with the things we prepared for, but we were not nearly as good with the things that we hadn't prepared for. And, so that comes down on the way that which you prepare, but your ability and maturity wise to be able to problem solve. And I think we'll get a great look at that in week one.
Going to be the Badgers and Broncos tomorrow night at Camp Randall Stadium. Kick is at 8. Turning to the Packers, it's nearly game week for them as they hit the practice field. They open the year next Friday in Brazil against the Eagles. Coach Matt LaFleur said he was not sure if new backup quarterback Malik Willis would be ready to play in that game just because of having to learn the offense. He added that if he's not, they'd feel comfortable elevating Sean Clifford from the practice squad to serve as Jordan Love's backup.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Giants going to play the rubber match of their 3-game series this afternoon at American Family Field. Aaron Savali going to be on the mound for the Crew. San Francisco sends Hayden Birdsong. First pitch is at 1:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Welcome back. The noon hour. Glad to have you. Bill Michaels, Grant Bills, The Bill Michaels Show. 877-867-1670. That's the phone number. You want to text us 608-321-1670, 608-321-1670. And coming up in a little bit, some of our network stations are going to bow away because they're going to take on Brewers baseball. So what you need to do is download the app, WOZN, The Zone Madison. You can listen to us there, or you can find us on YouTube, which is a great way to watch the program, listen to the program. It'll let you know each and every day that we come on. Also, the same thing goes for X or Twitter, at Bill_Michaels on X or Twitter. You can find Grant at Wisco Grant. But if you want to find us on YouTube, go to youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook, TikTok under The Bill Michaels Show. You can also track us down on the Twitch app, on the Kick app, on LinkedIn. So many different ways to pay attention to the program. And then after the fact, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google Podcasts as well. So there you go. If you want to track us down, feel free. And we'd love to hear from you. Coming up here, bottom of the hour, Steve Zotke from the Traction Reaction Podcast. We're going to talk with him. You've got IndyCar racing coming up the mile. We talked a little bit with Santino Ferrucci yesterday. By the way, man, what a great reaction to his interview. That was fun. Good to talk to those guys. We're looking forward. They're actually, they texted me, the representatives from IndyCar. They texted me, we're going to see them tomorrow night at kind of they have like an Indy Fest going on down at the Wisconsin State Fair Park. So they're going to have a lot of the different bars and restaurants and such open just outside the grandstands. And we're going to be at the Bud Pavilion tomorrow night. And the cheap shots are going to be on the stage. There's going to be music and food and beverages, the whole thing. But we're going to also get a chance to go there and hang out and talk about our motorcycle ride and our event. But also our friends from IndyCar are going to join us. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be fun, too. We'll talk with Steve Zotke coming up here, bottom of the hour. And we'll get into that. This is from Anthony, who says, is this what it's gotten to? Do we have things so good in Green Bay, we have no more controversies to discuss other than the kicking situation? Doesn't this make you feel blessed? Grant, what's your gut reaction to that?
So I think there's some truth to that. I had a caller point out last night, like, Grant, when was the last time the Packers had a bad kicker for any prolonged period of time? Because it was Crosby, Longwell, and Jackie. And there was maybe a year here and there, but for the most part, like, we talk about the Packers' great quarterback run. They've had a great run on kickers too, right? So right. I think we need to remember that. I also, Bill, and I'll grab a couple of comments from LaFleur and maybe a couple from Gutey. I don't know that those pressers really made me feel all that great yesterday.
Exactly.
I'm not saying the team's about to collapse and the season is going to fall apart. I just, when Brian Gutekunst cuts both kickers, we had Andres Carlson, Greg Joseph all camp, when he cuts them both on roster day and brings in somebody we've never heard of and comes to the podium and says, yeah, maybe I'm not as patient as I should be with specialists. Like, wait, what? You're telling us, You're telling us this after you just cut both the guys? Like, and then Matt LaFleur is obviously, I think, a little ticked at his special teams coordinator. Like, the pressers didn't make me feel great. That's all. I don't think that's an overreaction.
No. And I 100% agree with you. But I guess the best part of this is the fact that we are discussing kickers and special teams rather than quarterbacks, running backs. I mean, there is an area of concern because of the loss of A.J. Dillon, but quarterbacks, running backs, defensive depth, injuries all over. Because really, I mean, God, when you think about this and you look at the Packers, you've got Jarvis and Howard, who's on the IR, L.J. Davis on the IR, Tyler Davis, the tight end, on the IR, but Jonathan Ford on the IR. But you don't have, other than A.J. Dillon, you don't have a ton of significant injuries. Stokes got through the preseason. Christian Watson got through, and again, I'm knocking on wood and doing anything I possibly can to make sure that I keep the luck on this. Christian Watson got through the preseason. All of your wide receivers that you were just trying to make sure they were healthy got through the preseason. You didn't lose offensive linemen. You kind of kept who you wanted to keep. Your other than Tyler Davis, your tight end position with Ben Sims is fortified. Tucker Kraft has looked like he's taken a step. You upgraded, at least seemingly, your backup quarterback position with a deal. Your defense, short of, say, Javon Bullard, everybody else that you thought was going to start is starting. And the guys, Tyron Hopper, Edrin Cooper, Lucas Van Ness, Devontae Wyatt, these guys are all like in rotation. And you've got talent in rotation. You've got a second-round guy in Edrin Cooper in rotation. You've got a fourth-round guy in Evan Williams at the free safety position behind Bullard, who is a second-round draft choice in rotation. You've got quality guys in rotation. So it just leads you to believe that there's, on paper, starting out, things aren't too bad for the Green Bay Packers. Things aren't too bad. And so I understand this sentimentality of saying, yeah, we're pretty lucky, because all we're talking about right now so far, where you can look at it as, say, either a question mark or a negative, has been the kicker. That's it.
Can I play you? Brian Gutekunst was asked yesterday, and maybe we'll listen to his full presser. We might get to that because there's a lot of good stuff in there. Or maybe we could listen to individual comments, whatever.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything else to add to this conversation, can I play you? This is a question and answer yesterday when he was asked just about hey, you drafted Anders Carlson last year in the 5th round. What did you see? What do you think went wrong? Just Carlson start to finish. This is what Gutey had to say last night.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever, for sure. I think shouldn't we scout that, and certainly he had a great preseason where he hit a 59-yarder and then a game winner at the end. To handle that kind of pressure. So you're constantly monitoring that stuff, but until you get him in Lambeau Field and everything that brings, I'm not sure you ever know. I'm probably not as patient with specialists as I should be. I really am not. I give Ted a lot of credit. Certainly he was a much patient man than I was. But, I think Mason was under 80% until his 5th year. And then that 6th year was my first year in the office in 2012. And I think he was 60-some%, and missed 12 kicks, and I can tell you right now that there was people in the office that were like, let's move on. And, so I probably need to be a little bit more patient. We had J.K. Scott in here who's turned into a very good punter, but at the same time, I'm very confident in this team and what we can accomplish. So I want to make sure we give this team every opportunity to win. And so there's going to be a standard that we're going to try to reach.
That he's Mason Crosby was solid. He went through the yips. They had faith in Mason to figure it out, and they brought in competition. Mason just beat him. He fixed himself. He just beat him. So it was easy to go back to Mason Crosby. The leg strength certainly had diminished, but it was easy because he was just so accurate. He talks about J.K. Scott, who he developed. He was okay. There were times where it's every now and then he'd get that shank. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Wheelan's been pretty good. He's got a booming leg. And very few times have we ever, I can't even remember off the top of my head where he's really just shanked one. Or just had one just be a complete miss. But for the most part, he's been pretty good. So in regards to this, part of it is when you're the decision maker, you kind of live and learn. I love the fact, right or wrong, whatever it turns out to be, I love the fact that Gutekunst took a shot, it didn't work, and he said, move on. We are strictly about getting the best players on the field. That should give you confidence. And the fact that he's actually hit on a lot of draft choices in recent years, that should give you confidence as well. It means that everything right now in that scouting department, everything that right now in that front office, for the most part, because there's no general manager that's 100%. Gutekunst, remember last year going into the season, he was listed as one of the top 5 general managers in all of football. And what would have put him over the top would have been if Jordan Love actually pans out. And he did, for the most part, that we know of. Now you're waiting to see if he can kind of do it again for a full season this time. But it should make you confident.
There are worse problems to have than kicker. Totally.
Right.
It's just, I didn't feel great listening to the comments yesterday. And maybe there was nothing that they could have said that would have made me feel better. Because now we got a random kicker on the first day of a brand new season, basically with a 53-man roster. Fine. I guess the silver lining for me is not necessarily that kicker's their biggest problem, and it could be worse, but I look at what's going on with the Niners. That's a disaster. What's been going on with the Cowboys up until they finally signed CeeDee Lamb? That's been a mess. What's going on with the Bengals? Like, what's going on with the Niners? I think we've just gotten numb to it. Trent Williams still isn't there. Ayuk wasn't there yesterday, hours after John Lynch said, yeah, he'll be here today. We expect him to be here and practicing today. Like, that's a train wreck. The Eagles had some, 70-page expose on ESPN about how, well, their quarterback and coach probably don't hate each other. Like, it could be a lot worse. I suppose.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of drama. And so does Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor with Cincinnati had to back up what he said about Jamar Chase, saying that, because Jamar Chase showed up, he was late, as you had mentioned. He was kind of in street clothes. He did a few things. And then Zach Taylor said, yeah, he's here and we fully expect him to be, at practice and working out. And Jamar Chase went, really? Talk to you later. I'm out. And then Zach Taylor had to back that up. He had to walk it back, which he did. And most times coaches will stand by what they say, but he had to walk it back because, it's not going to get cheaper, but we talk to our buddy Mo Egger all the time. I was texting back and forth the other day, and Cincinnati, for whatever reason, that front office, who has been, to use the term frugal in years past would be an understatement, more miser-esque, penny pinching type of thing. They just don't want to set the precedent of renegotiating a contract with 2 years left on your deal. They want you to play it out and then come that last year, then do it. But Jamar Chase has far outplayed the deal that he currently has, and he's eligible for renegotiation, and they just don't want to do it. So we'll see what that standoff is like. Like you said, out in San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk still not ready to go, and they all want to be paid higher than Justin Jefferson. And that's a saga that's away from the game, so to speak, off the field right now, that I'm very interested in watching, because next week it all gets going for real. Next week is when you start to get paid. And for guys to be sitting out and saying, I'm not going to get paid. I don't care. I want to get a new contract, especially a guy like Jamar Chase, who's still working on the rookie deal. That's when money starts to get tight. Your agent may say, okay, you got to go. We need the money. You're going to have to make a name for yourself again. And then next year, it's no holds bar. We will not return. But then you're banking on yourself, which it's just going to be wait and see who blinks first. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. I want you to hear Brian Gutekunst. We'll listen to Gutey when we come back, before we get to the bottom of the hour and start talking some racing. Listen to some of Gutey's comments about this roster, about the way he trimmed it, about the things the thought process that went into it in making what it is now. Hey, I want to remind you, coming up tomorrow night, Friday Night Live, down at the Bud Pavilion at the Wisconsin State Fair Park, along with many other things going on revolving around the Indy Fest. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock to about 9:30, the Cheap Shots are going to be on the stage. We're going to be there. Hopefully, we'll see you down there. Otherwise, if you're in downtown Milwaukee at the Green Space, that is the Third Ward Beer Garden at Catalano Square, they're going to have music, beverages, fun, and all kinds of good stuff down there as well. Either place, great to go. But for sure, we're going to see you tomorrow night, Wednesday night, the special edition of Wednesday Night Live, a special Friday night edition, Friday Night Live, coming up tomorrow night with the Cheap Shots on stage down at the Wisconsin State Fair Park in the Bud Pavilion.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
He's not just all of a sudden go like, hey, I turned $26 million, 3 months ago, but now more guys have gotten paid. Now I'm good with it. But I also get the Niners spot. Like, we don't think you're as good as DJ Moore. We just don't think you're that good. And that's where I have a hard time with NFL markets and stuff. Like, whatever happened to, this is what we think you're worth. You're still under contract. This is not like you're just some free agent out there. So do you want to play on $14 million or do you want to take our $75 million guaranteed? Historically, the guy usually cracks, but it does feel, and I had Jake Rosenberg, who was a longtime contract negotiator for the Eagles on the pod last week, and he said, like, let's face it, these player empowerment in the NFL, it's not the NBA, but it's definitely amped up a little bit.
There you go. John Middlecoff. Talking about the Niners situation. That was with Colin Cowherd's podcast. And some of these guys are digging their heels in, man. Now we wait and see. Andrew Brandt used to tell me all the time, wait until they start missing paychecks and it affects their bank account. That's when you start to see guys make a move. And that's when things, midnight hour in your bank account, that's when things begin to get real. So we'll see what actually happens there. In the meantime, Brian Gutekunst, he was at the podium yesterday, and he was talking to the media about the makeup of this team, the kicking situation, what they did at the quarterback position as well. Take a listen to what Brian Gutekunst had to say yesterday.
Just want to thank our players for a really good camp. Love the way they competed. It was a really good camp. I thought it was physical. It was it was close in a lot of areas. So I just want to thank our players, thank our staff, thank our coaches, just all the work that went into it. With that, I'll take some questions.
What was the thinking at backup quarterback, bring in Malik instead of the two guys you had all camp?
Yeah, I think certainly there's some underwhelming performances, I think, at times. But at the same time, Malik is a guy that certainly he's in his third year, and he really has shown a lot of progression, particularly this preseason. And it was just an opportunity for us to add a guy that I think can not only make plays with his arm, but with his legs as well. And I'm excited to get him in the building and see where that goes.
He seems like a much different player than Love. How much do you have to change? Would you have to change your offense if he has to play?
No, I don't think so. Not much at all. In fact, he's got some crossover in this offense anyway. I think that was the one thing this preseason, as we track guys through their early stages of their career, the one thing that we saw, particularly with this new coaching staff in Tennessee, is just how much he had progressed within the offense, playing from the pocket and making plays that way. So, again, I mean, this will be new for him, and obviously the quarterback position, it'll take a little bit of time. But at the same time, just kind of really excited where his progression has taken him this far and where he'll go, particularly under our group.
Do you think he'll be able to get up to speed with the offense to be the number 2 by week 1?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
The kicking, you put a lot into the kicking stuff. Mm-hmm. How did you end up, where you are right now?
Yeah, I think just obviously, I think you guys know when we went into this, we rotated some kickers through here. I think we were the only team to have 3 for most of the training camp, and so we were looking a lot. We're monitoring the league, Brendan was a kid that we like coming out. And then he had an excellent preseason there in Tennessee. So, as it unfolded and he was let go, we just thought it was an opportunity to get a really good young kicker and give him a shot at it.
Do you have the confidence to go with a totally new guys, or going to be some sort of a competition there?
I mean, so I think obviously Narvis will be on the active, and then Alex Hale will be on the practice squad. So we'll have two, but right now we're going to go with Braden.
Brian, when you were talking to Tennessee about Malik, were you talking to them about the kicker as well, or what? Like, it seemed the way it happened.
Yeah, there's conversations that go on, throughout camp from our, not only from me but from our pro scouts that are talking to these teams all the time. So there were some conversations, but ultimately it just kind of fell how it fell.
Brian, what was sort of your reaction to Aaron Mosby's finish to the preseason, and also I think you have to make that jump on the 53 this week?
Yeah, really proud just of the way he's progressed. When we first got him, he's a little bit of a tweener. He's an inside backer, he's an outside backer in our old scheme. And then as we moved into this 4-3, we put his hand down and he really kind of took off. And yeah, you got to give him a lot of credit. He's put a lot of work into it. And really, not only as an edge rusher and his ability to rush a passer and do all the things that we're asking him to do on the defensive line, but in special teams as well. His ability to kind of play multiple spots there, and play it well. And then he produced. He just did a really nice job producing. He kept getting better each week and was showing up in practice. It showed up in the games. Excited for what he was able to accomplish this camp.
Right. As you know, there's a lot of unknowns with a rookie kicker. Mm-hmm. And how do you know about the mental makeup and how a guy will handle something like this situation?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever, for sure. I mean, shouldn't we scout that, and certainly he had a great preseason where he hit a 59-yarder and then a game winner at the end to handle that kind of pressure. So you're constantly monitoring that stuff, but until you get him in Lambeau Field and everything that brings, I'm not sure you ever know. I mean, I'm probably not as patient with specialists as I should be. I'm not. I mean, I give Ted a lot of credit. Certainly he was a much patient man than I was. But, I think Mason was under 80% until like his 5th year. And then that 6th year was my first year in the office in 2012. And I think he was 60-some%, and missed like 12 kicks, and I can tell you right now that there was people in the office that were like, let's move on. And, so I probably need to be a little bit more patient. I mean, we had J.K. Scott in here. He's turned into a very good punter, but at the same time, I'm very confident in this team and what we can accomplish. So I want to make sure we give this team every opportunity to win. And so there's going to be a standard that we're going to try to reach.
So you had used a draft pick on Carlson a year ago. What ultimately turned the page on him, and how much did that last field goal, that last kick in the last preseason game factor into it?
Yeah, I think it was a culmination of the whole camp and everything. I think, for me, and I think our group, as we went through it, it was just, we were going to try to get better there. And whether that was Anders or that was somebody from outside, it didn't matter, but we needed to get better. We felt we needed to get better. And so that's kind of the reason why we made the decision. Kickers in this league, some of them come out right away and they can handle it, and sometimes they got to bounce around a few times before they actually land. I think Anders is probably going to be one of those guys. He's got a ton of talent. He actually had a pretty solid rookie year for us, but I just think at this time we were looking for a little bit better, and that's the direction we're heading in.
What did you learn about AJ's stinger that made you guys put him on that season-ending IR?
Yeah, I think that we're very, very cautious with head, necks, and hearts around here. We always have been. Obviously he had the injury last year. I went through some things this year, and I won't get into the details of it, but it was just something that we weren't comfortable with at the moment. Hopefully that will change in time. Obviously, he won't be with us this year. But he's gonna need some time to get through this to see exactly how this will shake out. But I wish him the best for him. Obviously, he's a pro's pro, and it's a tough blow when these things happen. But hopefully, here in short time, he'll get some good news.
You talked about how you're very confident in this team and want to give them every chance to win. When you have two high-profile battles that all eyes are on the kicker, backup quarterback, and you end up going with someone from the outside, what message does that send to your team about turning over every rock and doing everything you can and being super competitive at every chance?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, our guys want to win. And so when we bring in people from the outside, I think it's like anything else. If these guys see that they can help us win, they're going to be all, they're going to be all for it. I don't know if it really sends any message, but I think the guys that have been here any length of time understand that's kind of how we do things, and they've gone through seasons where you see guys here every Tuesday and us turning the practice squad. And so I think it's kind of standard, operating procedure around here. So the guys that have been here will know it, and the guys that are new get up to speed pretty quick.
Kicking battle that we watched all of offseason was before Saturday. But is Anders here if he makes a 32-yard field goal? Does it mean the last?
No, it doesn't come down to something. I mean, certainly that matters, right? I mean, that certainly matters, but that wasn't something that that turned the page on it.
In hindsight, what do you think he missed there? Because he might be a good kicker one day, but he had his struggles.
I mean, I think it's like whenever you go into, particularly quarterback and kicker are always an interesting because of there's just only one guy out there, right? So it's always an interesting the way those guys kind of go through this league. There's a lot of bouncing around with those guys sometimes before they land. So we certainly knew that was a possibility when we drafted Anders. I can't say enough about his work ethic. He's put in all the time. I mean, he's done everything we've asked him to do, and he's had some really good moments here. Again, I think it's no different than anything else. We're constantly looking at if there's an opportunity that we think we might have a chance to get better. Does it make sense to take that chance? And in this particular instance, I felt it was necessary.
So when you say take that chance, Gutey, it is a risk, right? I mean, this is a guy you don't really know much about. So I would think in your position, the one thing you don't want to do is then have this not work out, and then you're trying other guys out all the time. Like, where do you go from here when you are where you are?
That's part of it, and I mean, I think that's just, it's not just here; it's in every, pretty much every building in the league. I mean, guys got to produce. If they don't produce, it's going to be short. It's going to be a short leash, and so for me, it's just it's really no different than it ever has been. I mean, we're going to always kind of. We're working all year to kind of see if there's opportunities to make us better. And if there is, and we can, we're going to try to do that. If, we're really excited to get Braden in here to see what he can do. And he's certainly got a lot of talent, and we're excited about that. And, but at the end of the day, all these guys that made this team, they got to produce. I mean, that's part of the National Football League. And I really like our group. I really like the way they work. I like the way that they're working together and connecting. Again, we got a long ways to go, but I like this group, and I'm excited to add the guys that we added over the last few days.
Well, where do games fit into the evaluation process at this point? You obviously drafted 2 linebackers, so it's going to be tough for Christian, but it would seem like Welch did absolutely everything he could have to make this team and still didn't. So how do you kind of view the game component at this point in the NFL?
Yeah, it's the most important part, right? I mean, that's what it is. I think, Christian, along with a few others, absolutely did everything and deserved to make this football team. We had more than 53, in my opinion, that deserved to make this football team. And deserved to make a 53 roster. That's a great problem. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to look people in the eye that that have produced and played well enough to make your team and have to move on. That's really, really hard. I'm glad some of our guys got opportunities, and Christian as well, because I think they deserve it and they've earned it. But that's very, very difficult.
There you go. That's Brian Gutekunst. He's on it. And when it came to the kicking game, he said it didn't come down to that kick that was missed on Saturday. And that probably just kind of put the last nail in the coffin more so than anything. And that was myself at that point went, nah. But then again, we had talked about this, that there was reports coming out of camp that while Anders Carlson was still making kicks, they were just eking inside the uprights. Joseph was better. He was pretty much down Broadway on many of his kicks. When they both missed, they both missed. But the one that was kicking better, more accurately, was Joseph. So I'm sure they looked at Anders Carlson and went, just put this one through the uprights. Stick it right down the middle. And he missed kind of the chip shot. And they probably went, you know what? That made the decision easier. Maybe the decision was already made, but that made the decision easier at that point. That might be the best way to put it. All right, when we come back, let's do this. We're going to bring in some racing because you got racing at the Milwaukee Mile coming up this weekend as well, so don't go anywhere. We're going to talk with our buddy Steve Zotke from the Traction Reaction podcast. Hell yes, he's going to give us a little bit of a chat as well. Don't forget our friends over there at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. They have got it going on in the sense that if you want to beautify your home, easy. New windows, new doors, patio doors, all that kind of stuff. How about economically? Winter's right around the corner. You know the winds are going to be howling. You don't want to hear them. You don't want to feel them, that's for sure. You don't want that cold air in your home. You don't want the hot air leaking out. And if you got good windows and doors, when we recently had this really hot, sweltering, kind of humid snap, you probably felt that as well. You got good windows and doors. All you got to do is replace the bad ones. If you want to replace all of them and want to go for a brand new look for your home, do it. No problem. Otherwise, take my advice. Whether it's something for your budget, something for the value of your home, the economical factor, you can get 0% financing up to 60 months right now with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. Get the free in-home consultation, PellaWI.com, or call them. 855-PELLA-WI, 855-PELLA-WI. And everybody that's in the kind of the central portion of the state of Wisconsin was up there in Wausau and Stevens Point, Marshfield and all that have been calling the new showroom up there at Pella in Wausau. Kudos. You're making the phone ring. That's awesome. And keep telling them you heard it right here. Thanks to you, Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, #1 in the state of Wisconsin. And now you know why.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, I'm Jeff Levering alongside Gina Della from Pella.
Thanks, Jeff. How do you say welcome?
With a new entry door from Pella.
Say it with color.
Like baseball bat oak or foul pole yellow?
Say it with class.
Like following players' unwritten baseball rules.
With clarity.
Like a no-doubter shot off the scoreboard?
Or with confidence.
Like an overachieving first-place team who experts predicted would be below average this season.
Before saying welcome with your new entry door from Pella, secure an incredible deal.
Like a ruthless baseball player's agent. Here's the deal you cannot pass up.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
That's the ball game. A Pella walk-off.
Your new entry door from Pella is installed and warranted by Pella for years of comfort and durability.
Don't miss out on 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
Schedule your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 8/31/2024.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's a Thursday. We're excited. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. And we got the Dreamer's Disease. Damn straight. Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show continues on. 877-867-1670. You want to chime in? Feel free to go ahead and do so. We got some text messages we'll get to coming up here in just a little bit as well. Want to talk some racing. IndyCar this time coming to the Milwaukee Mile. Our buddy Steve Zotke is joining us on the hotline. Steve, how you doing, pal?
Pretty good. How about you, Bill?
I'm doing well. It was really cool yesterday in studio, right here in the home studio. Santino Ferrucci came over and hung out with me for about 20 minutes yesterday. You talk about a really cool dude and somebody you can root for. Just what a nice guy, man.
He is. He's a great quote. He's a real natural when it comes to media and stuff, and a hell of a driver. The kid is fast, and it wouldn't surprise me if he surprised some people this weekend at the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, he's had some top 10 finishes. He's won some poles. He just hasn't gotten over the hump. And we were talking about that yesterday. He said everything has to just be so right. It's always been, he put most of it on himself. It's just a mistake here or there. Something happens, a really, weird piece of luck. And, like they had the telemetry issue where they had, the pit lane infraction for the speed limit. And the car didn't catch up to the electronics and such. The computer screwed it up. It's just one of those things. So he might be a guy that, and he enjoys this short track stuff. So he's a guy that if you're going to kind of be a betting person, he might be the guy to go for.
Oh, it certainly is. And the team has come a long way over the last 12 months or so. They've announced late last year they do a development program with Team Penske with their shocks and that. And right now, you know, we even with NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, a lot of these racing series, you know, everything is so controlled, trying to keep down costs. There's not too much these teams can do. It's not like the old days where you can just roll a new car with a totally new design and go racing. So the incremental speed jumps are very, very minute. And over the last 10 years, the biggest way to really have a car handle and to put the horsepower, as they say, to the asphalt is through shock development. And Penske's always been at the forefront at that. And they've gone into an agreement with AJ Foyt Racing to help develop that. And it's really started to redeem itself the second half of the season. You know, Foyt Racing was just lost on road courses and that. Santino did really quite well last year at Indianapolis, qualifying on the second row, finishing third, and then this year too. But on the road courses, they've been really falling behind. But the beginning of Road America this year, they've been showing some speed, and then last week, culminating with getting a pole position, the first time in about 10 years for Foyt Racing with Santino on the pole at Portland. So, it's really starting to come to the forefront. And yeah, like I said, on the ovals, they've been doing quite well. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do at the two races this weekend.
So going into this, let's first of all talk about your favorite. Who do you think is really there's three things that go into this. We all know that there's a portion of luck to this. Also, you got to be kind of rolling at the time and feeling really, really good. And you got to be better on one course versus the other. So who does this favor coming into the Milwaukee Mile this weekend?
Well, it's been dominated so far this year, especially the ovals, is Joseph Newgarden and Team Penske. So that would be your, 1A, and then your 2 1B, or 1B and 1C would be Will Power and Scott McLaughlin, the other two team Penske drivers. They've been just at the forefront, and then you got Alex Palou, who's just strong everywhere and is leading the points at this point and could feasibly clinch the championship this weekend. So, but it's everybody is going to be out to beat Team Penske this weekend.
Now, who needs the win as far as point standing and such goes? Who like when you talk about the outside looking in, who needs this one?
Arrow McLaren has been struggling, and everybody is scratching their heads. They looked awful last week at Portland. They have quality drivers, and it's just everybody is just like, what is going on? You got Alexander Rossi, who unfortunately is leaving that team, but Pato O'Ward, and then they have a third car which they've had a couple of drivers in it, and it'll be Logan Siegel this weekend. But they've been they show glimpses, but they haven't been able. Well, they won the first race with the DQ to Newgarden at St. Pete for the first race of the year. But other than that, they've been just struggling. Everybody's scratching their head. You got the money, you got the team, you got Arrow McLaren, whose sister team is running an F1, and that should be an advantage right there, especially from an engineering side. And they just cannot figure it out. They've been just struggling. So if anybody's looking to finally get on back in the victory lane, it would be Alexander Rossi and or Pato O'Ward.
All right. The next question I have for you is, what does it mean to have the Milwaukee Mile back up and running with numerous races now? It seems like things have reestablished itself. Racing in the state of Wisconsin is always, big. It's always going on, and there's a lot of grassroots racing that takes place here. But how big is it to get racing back at the Milwaukee Mile?
Well, personally, for me, it's huge because I've grown up at this track. I've been going to this track, as they say, since I've been in short pants, as the saying goes. But I've been going to this track for many, many, many years, and I always had a feeling that this feasibly could work again. And Roger Penske has put the track back on the schedule. But and I said this last week. I said the biggest thing that's different is that State Fair is actually on board and has some money in the game, so to speak. They've put $8 million into this track or on track to spend even, on to $8 million. Anybody who's been at the track, you can see the changes, especially from the safety point of view with the fencing. But I mean, everything's been painted, everything's been cleaned up. It's looking very good. So the investment is there, and now it's just time for the fans to show up. We had a good event last weekend with the NASCAR Truck Series, and that, granted, with the hot weather, having 90-degree heat is almost akin to having a thunderstorm on the day of the race, when it comes to your walk-up crowd. So that kind of hurt the event a bit there. But, racing is back at the Milwaukee Mile. A lot of people are happy about it, and they really and they're on the schedule for next week or next year too. So that's important. This ain't going to be a one and done. IndyCar is committed for a 3-year deal with the Milwaukee Mile. So get your butt out there and take a look at some great racing on this track.
Yeah, the other thing is they start tomorrow. Tomorrow, I believe. Isn't it that State Fair Park opens up tomorrow? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. There'll be practice tomorrow, Friday at 3:30 tomorrow, which will be also broadcast on the Peacock Network. And then on Saturday, qualifying starts at 2:15, and then the race is going to be at 5:40. So don't forget, these are 2 races this weekend. So if you can't come out Saturday for the race, you can come out Sunday, which starts at 2:30, or vice versa. If you can't make it out Sunday, come on out Saturday. You're going to see qualifying and racing, and not only with the Indy cars, but all the other racing series that's with them, the Indy Next and the other formulas that come out there. So it'll be really exciting. There'll be a lot of on-track activity, and plus the midways open up, or as I should say, the state fairs will be open up, and there'll be a lot of things going on there.
Great stuff, Steve. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. I'll see you this weekend as well a little bit. So looking forward to it, buddy. It's great to have racing back at the mile, especially IndyCar racing. Okay.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
there you
it.
go. That's our buddy Steve Zotke, the Traction Reaction Podcast. He's got good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, I got to say thanks to our friends, our special friends over there. And I talked about this the other day at Buzzard Billy's on Pearl Street in La Crosse, Wisconsin. They got the rewards program. They've upped their game in the rewards program. By the way, if you go to Buzzard Billy's and you live in La Crosse, even if you just want to stop in and get some good food, that's great. But now if you go there and you start going there frequently, they have a rewards program and you can double up. It's not a bad way to go. Go upstairs to the Starlight Lounge, get yourself a couple of cocktails, craft cocktails. Go downstairs, have some great food, some cold beverages. That's Buzzard Billy's on Pearl Street in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Stop in and tell Heather, who's the GM over there, we said hi, but Heather got a hold of me and said, hey, we got a new rewards program. We're rolling this thing out. Let's do this. So stop in and say, Heather, what's the new rewards program? Because I eat here. I want to earn stuff, free stuff. It's always good. Free is for me, or at least half price is free is for me. I love that. So Buzzard Billy's on Pearl Street in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
So what's better than a Packers win? Celebrating a Packers win behind the wheel of a newly redesigned 2024 Chevy Traverse C71. Yeah, that's better. And right now at Quick Trip, for every $1 you spend with Quick Rewards, you'll earn a Fan Zone point to spend in the Packers Zone. Then with your Quick Rewards app, spend points for your chance to win prizes throughout the season, like a Chevy Traverse C71. Kick off your winning season with Quick Trip and your Green Bay Packers. See quicktrip.com/fanzone for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Man, today is flying by. I'm excited. A lot of good stuff happening. Bill Michaels Show. Continuing on. Thanks to our friends over there at Dream Vacations, Michael and Melissa. By the way, they're on their own vacation. Saw their wedding this past weekend. Michael and Melissa, they ended up getting married, and they are now off on their honeymoon, which they actually, think about this. This is the kind of people they are that you want to deal with. They actually are cutting their honeymoon short because they volunteered. They wanted to be volunteers for the motorcycle ride in our event coming up on Sunday. So they left on their honeymoon on Monday. It was supposed to be a Monday through Sunday thing. So they actually cut it a day short to be back here. They fly into town, I think, at like 9 o'clock on Saturday night. And then first thing Sunday morning, they're going to be with us down at the Harley Davidson Museum, and then with us at the show afterwards. I mean, how cool is that? That's the kind of people you're dealing with. Just incredibly credible people. And if you're looking for a vacation, whether it's to a resort or on a cruise, maybe you want to see your favorite team. Follow the Packers, follow the Brewers, whatever it happens to be. Let Melissa and Michael help you plan and book your next special getaway just for you. 414-208-4221. 414-208-4221. And there's somebody up in, I think it was Tomahawk, just booked a big reunion or a trip they were telling me about over the weekend, said thank you so much. And the person said specifically they listened to the program. So good stuff. Good stuff. I love it when I get stories like that people step up and hear us talk about something and they try it out and they go, boy, that was a great experience. There you go. Bryce says, where do NFL teams stay when they play Green Bay? Usually in Appleton. That's where they go. Just an FYI. That's why when you see the buses coming up the highway with the sirens in front of, with the police escort in front of them, that's usually the team. And that's when all the fans get ready. And I don't think it has been recently. I haven't seen the buses pull in recently where people have been mooning the buses the way they used to, but there's still usually a conglomeration of people standing outside the gates. I'll get there probably about the same time or just before the buses pull in, because it's always fun to see the fans standing outside watching all the players get off the buses. But, yep, there you go. What else do we have here for you? Grant, what do we got coming up in the next hour, by the way? We got one more guest. We're not even
done. We have Mike Sando coming up at 1:30.
I love that.
Do you and Mike Sando was on I don't know if he wrote a story about love, but we had him on a couple months ago for one reason or another. This is the time of year where his annual tiers story comes out. So if you're not familiar with this, he surveys a couple dozen people around the league, quarterbacks or GMs, coaches, agents, all that sort of thing, and takes all their comments and they fill out a survey and they rank the quarterbacks top to bottom and put them into tiers. So I'm reading some of the commentary about Love right now, and he's actually behind. Jordan Love is at the bottom of tier 2 behind Cousins, Purdy, Hurts, Goff, and Dak. Those are the quarterbacks that were ranked just ahead of Jordan Love. So I'm interested. Some of the comments are really, really complimentary of Love. I think he's only that low because people need to see a little bit more, but you can ask Mike specifically about that.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that we had talked about was, is he going to do it again? I think all the other questions have been answered. Wouldn't you say? Every question we wanted, the two things we had coming out of last season, the two things. One is the downfield game going to become more consistent? And I think right away, third play of the preseason, boop, over the top, Dontavian Wicks, bam, 65-yard touchdown, here we go. So that question was, let's put that thing to bed. Now we got to see in the regular season, but that was one of the questions we wanted answered. The second question regarding Jordan Love was, can you do it again? Maybe not to the same level of 23 touchdowns, 1 pick. We all understand that. That's almost miraculous. But can you just continue to play at this level consistently for an entire season? And that's the other question that people want to answer.
He jumped 13 spots from last year's survey, so it's not like the voters didn't recognize what he did last year. Right. I just find it interesting, and you talked to Mike about this. People still have Dak in front of him. People still have Purdy and Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers is in front of him, which I don't think is unreasonable. That'll just be something interesting to talk about for sure. He's coming up at 1:30.
He's coming at 1:30. We got another hour yet to go. Don't go anywhere. You're going to hear Matt LaFleur coming up in this hour. I'll answer a couple of questions coming off of the text line, the emails as well. We're not done. We're energized on a Thursday, man. Hell yes. Let's do this. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. Got to say thanks to our friends at Point Brewing excellence since 1857. And they've got some cases of beverage that are going into our prize pack for our winner this coming weekend. Or one of the winners, anyway, this coming weekend. God, this is good stuff. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, we're just a day out from the start of the football season for the Badgers. They're going to get things going tomorrow night against Western Michigan. Broncos bring a new offensive and defensive coordinator to the game, further increasing the unknown for a Week 1 game in college football. Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell said one of the areas they struggled last year was in adapting to what an opponent was doing. That's been a focus this offseason.
As things changed within a game, as things changed from the start of a game, because I felt like last year we were really good with the things we prepared for, but we were not nearly as good with the things that we hadn't prepared for. And, so that comes down on the way that which you prepare, but your ability and maturity wise to be able to problem solve. And I think we'll get a great look at that in Week 1.
I've got to be the Badgers and Broncos tomorrow night at Camp Randall Stadium. Kick is at 8. Turning to the Packers, it's nearly game week for them. As they hit the practice field, they open the year next Friday in Brazil against the Eagles. Coach Matt LaFleur said he was not sure if new backup quarterback Malik Willis would be ready to play in that game just because of having to learn the offense. He added that if he's not, they'd feel comfortable elevating Sean Clifford from the practice squad to serve as Jordan Love's backup.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Giants going to play the rubber match of their 3-game series this afternoon at American Family Field. Aaron Savali going to be on the mound for the Crew. San Francisco sends Hayden Birdsong. First pitch is at 1:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, print.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Bill Michaels Show. How are we looking today? how we look. And this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Tim's Stereo Systems. Can't wait to show mine off this weekend. What I put on my motorcycle. Tim's Motorcycle Audio Stereo Systems. He is by far the best installer I've ever dealt with. And it took me a long time to find somebody like that to specifically work on my motorcycle. And as a matter of fact, when Santino Ferrucci was here yesterday, the IndyCar driver, when they were waiting to come on the air, they were in the garage looking at the Harleys. And they were downstairs, and he was like, man, that's really cool. I bet you that thing cranks. So before they left, I turned it on and turned it up. He's like, wow. Can you hear that at like 60, 70 miles an hour? Clear as a bell. Clear as a bell. You want to get a hold of Tim and get your system all set up, maybe even this offseason. 608-718-1425. 608-718-1425. 608-718-1425. That's our buddy Tim at Tim's Stereo System. There you go. There you have it. Bryce says Jordan Love's deep ball is more accurate than Rodgers is, it seems. I could be wrong, but it looks better as far as accuracy goes. No. Not when he was throwing to Devontae and Jordy. No. I mean, even go back to some of the Hail Marys that Aaron tossed up. No. Aaron was far, you must have recency bias or something, but far, far better. Rodgers and he could do it with a flick of a wrist and throw it 70 yards downfield. Flick of a wrist. Rodgers is one of the most, and I'm not knocking Jordan Love because you're comparing him to a for sure first ballot Hall of Famer, but Rodgers just was on. Rodgers was just always on. So if he gets to that level and does get better than Rodgers, then we have a lot of happy years in our future as Packers fans. Out of the 608, why didn't they just cut AJ Dillon? He's out for the year. You can make room for somebody else. Well, they did. In essence, you put him on the IR, it's basically a settlement, and he's not taking up a roster spot or anything. He's done for the season. So there's no designation for him to come back or anything like that. Oh, that's great. The ALRA chaplain, District 1 from the American Legion Riders texted me and said, we want to donate $1,000 for the ride. That's, you know what? Kudos. That is absolutely awesome. Thanks so much. We certainly appreciate it. And I will get in touch with you real soon. Believe me. That is awesome. Appreciate that. Rick and Spencer. Let's see here. Oh, we were talking about this earlier. I want to get into this, but Rick says, hey, I got a buddy, lives in West Allis, a retired firefighter, and he would love to and deserves the tickets. So if you got some extra tickets, could you give them to him? Absolutely. No problem. We'll get in touch with all that stuff for sure. I wanted to get to this. I got an email here before we get to Matt LaFleur, and I wanted to read this, and then we'll listen to Matt LaFleur's comments. This is from Al. He says, hey, Bill, do you think that Matt LaFleur sounds frustrated because some of the guys that maybe he wanted to keep are no longer with the team, or the guys that ended up getting cut have been picked up by other teams? It sounds like Matt is now feeling the pressure of being testy early on in his pressers. Last year, he seemed rather agitated just before the trip to New York. They ended up losing that game. He was agitated the year Rodgers was here before the trip to go play New York in London. They ended up losing that game. I hope this isn't a sign of things to come. You tell me, what do you think? How does Matt LaFleur sound? Matt LaFleur met with the media yesterday. Take a listen to what Matt LaFleur had to say.
In a short amount of time, Willis can be ready to be number 2, right?
We will see. I don't know. We'll see how it goes today. And I know he's a pretty smart guy. We've had an opportunity to meet with him, and it's not like you're getting a rookie in here. He does have obviously a foundation, and it's just, translating what he's learned in the past and, putting it into our terms and then coaching him on the run. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and when we have to play our game, but we'll see where he is at that moment and make the best decision for our football team.
I know you saw guys like almost every week they have to learn how to fly. How do you get a kicker up to speed quickly?
That's not a question for me. I don't have to worry about that. Kick the ball.
No,
I think. Oh, I thought you said kicker.
Well, maybe I did. Right. I'm running about kickers before you came in.
Did he not say kicker? Okay, I was like, kick it. Yeah, the QB. It's definitely a little bit more of a challenge than a kicker. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, again, we're throwing a lot at him today. We'll see how he responds, but he's a very intelligent guy. The one thing I'll tell you is, just in talking with him, there was some similarities with what he first learned when he got in the league, when Todd Downing was the OC there in Tennessee, just because the offense went from myself to Arthur Smith to Todd Downing. So there was a little bit of crossover there in terms of some of the terminology and some of the things that they were asking him to do. And it's just, he's going to have to, reframe it in terms of a lot of these teams are doing a lot of similar things. You just might call it something different. So it's like learning a new language.
Is that the same with Callahan? Because he came from the Zach's.
I thought it would be more similar. It doesn't sound like it's really that way. Obviously Zach and I worked together in LA with Sean and then Callahan working with Zach the last, 5 years in Cincinnati. And, but it doesn't sound like it sounds like it's a little bit different.
If for whatever reason, like he's just not ready, do you have any hesitation with going with Sean and elevating him for that role in Brazil?
Come on. We got people walking in here late. Now we got alarms going off. What are we doing? I know we should. Can you do 20 push-ups? Okay. Yeah. What was the question?
Having Sean back in the practice squad, is that an option for him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we have confidence in him. I told Sean, I think we've seen him play better than all the things we saw throughout the course of the off season, I would say, from training camp and in those preseason games. He's just got to get back to really the core fundamentals that allow you to play the game fast. And, reading with your feet is one of those. But we certainly still have a lot of confidence in Sean, and it's just the circumstance we're in right now.
Matt, I know Bill asked about the kicker. What exactly is the transition process there? You had 5 different guys come through here in camp. And
Not a question for me. That is a question for Rich Bisaccia.
Is a razor thin difference between winning and losing.
Oh, I'm well aware of this. This is uncharted territory, I would say, that I've been in my time in the league. So it's just, you just got to come in and perform. I don't know how else to put it, but it's definitely a unique situation.
Do you think it could affect your play calling in week 1 and going for it on 4th down?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I think you got to take into account all the circumstances. No different though, like when you go out and there's inclement weather and sometimes that affects some of the decision making you make, and we'll see. We'll get a couple days with him to kind of get a feel for him as he performs. What's hard is you just don't have any game, experience with him. But he did a nice job in Tennessee. I know that.
But is the uncharted territory having 2 rookies, or are you talking about bringing a guy in this late to do it?
What are you talking about?
Kickers. You said it was uncharted.
No, I'm just saying in terms of bringing the guy in right when we're bringing him in. But, I've been on teams in the past where we've cycled through a lot of guys, and that's never a fun position to be in. So hopefully they'll come in, do a great job, and we'll be off and running.
Where do you think you are I know it's the first week, so I'm not asking about Marshawn's health status. But how challenging is the kind of the running back puzzle right now with AJ's thing being enough to shut him down for the year? And where do you kind of feel like you're at in terms of your options there?
Yeah, it's another tough question. You inadvertently didn't ask about his status. So we'll see where he's at. I don't know. We haven't practiced in a few days. We'll get him out there today, see where he's at, let him run around. I think, you feel like he can handle most playbook. It's not like he hasn't been learning. It's just, the application of taking it from the classroom and applying it in a real game setting is you wish you had a little bit more exposure.
You had spoken early in training camp about how good AJ looked. Just how discouraging is that just to see him work as hard as he did in the offseason and then for it to kind of...
Yeah, it's really discouraging because we had a pretty clear vision for what he could do. And it wasn't just going to be as a runner. I thought the versatility was what I was most excited about, just being able to kind of do a lot of different things in regards to some of the stuff that we did a year ago with him when we had some of our 2 halfback sets. So it certainly leaves us with a void, but I mean, that's life in the National Football League. You got to adapt or you die. So we better adapt.
Now, what does it say about the depth of the wide receiver room that Grant, the 7th wide receiver, gets picked up by Anderson?
Well, I'm super fired up for Grant. And that obviously it was a blessing and a curse to have so many tough decisions, but it's great to see 4 of these guys, getting opportunities elsewhere. I don't feel like I've ever been a part of a team that's, Jesus Christ, I shouldn't say that. What's getting into you guys today, man? Come on, Wallers. You're gonna run a tighter ship around here. Yeah. Anyways, but it's really great. It's a credit to Grant too, just to see where he's come from, the circumstances he was dealt a year ago in regards to coming in here, having to have, surgery, battling through with limited reps. I know a year ago at this time, he wasn't happy that he was on the P squad, but a lot of times you're dealt or handed circumstances that you're not always happy with, and it's how you respond to them. And I thought, especially as the year went along, his just attention to detail, his work ethic, everything really, he was busting his butt in practice. And I think he saw the benefits of that. And to go out there and, I thought he's a really tough, gritty guy. And, we're certainly going to miss him, but I'm happy for him to be able to get an opportunity elsewhere.
How special is a day like this, like with Malik? He mentioned Braves, I think, was the one that told him that he made the team. Bo, guys like that have been able to kind of work their way up and get this opportunity now.
Yeah, it's always exciting when you get to call somebody and let them know that they made it. But you can't take it for granted either. With this league, it's what have you done for me lately? And you got to continue to work and grind and keep your spot. It's a competitive situation always. Some positions are a little bit more competitive than others, just in terms of who we have on our roster. But these guys got to understand, whether you're on the active roster or whether you're on the practice squad. Anymore, the way we view it, it's a 70-man roster with the ability to call people up. So you got to get yourself prepared to play each and every week, and you better be getting better throughout the course of the season. And go ahead.
But you're done. I apologize. Speaking of the 70-man roster, though, if Marshawn's not quite ready week 1, physically or mentally, whatever it is, what do you think of McCreary and Merriweather?
Yeah, I think both those guys showed well in the preseason game, or throughout the course of the preseasons. Obviously, McCreary wasn't here quite as long, but we were familiar with him in regards to having him on the team last year. And then I thought Ellis ran really hard. I thought all those guys ran extremely hard in that final preseason game and put some good stuff out there for everybody to see.
Back to Willis, I don't know how familiar you are with his skill set yet. Maybe this is something you have to determine, but if you do need him for a game sometime during the regular season, can you run the same stuff? Is the offense the same that you would have for Jordan?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really comes down to how much can he handle, and I don't think we're really going to know that until we spent a few days together, and I do think it's a little bit easier when you're talking about getting prepared for a game, because I mean, you really pare down the playbook quite a bit in regards to the focus of what you're trying to get accomplished. So we'll see how he picks it up, and I think that will determine, how much we can throw at him.
Preseason performance, was Welch one of your toughest to have to face and tell him that he didn't make the team?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, he did everything that he could have possibly done. And he was making plays. It showed up in every game. And I thought he got better throughout the course going into OTAs from where he started to where he is now. He is a much better football player. Certainly he's made his mark in this league on teams, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that for a long time to come. But I thought he really showed his ability to go in there and play on the defense side of the ball. That gave us a lot of confidence. He's a very smart guy, very tough, competitive, everything that you want from a football player, in particular in that position, a really good communicator. So, again, it's tough. I selfishly love to have him a part of our team, but I'm happy for him to get another opportunity in Baltimore.
What's the practice plan going forward into next week?
So we will practice today and tomorrow. Today is, I would say, a little bit of a lighter day, being the fact that we had 3 days off for the guys, and some of those guys that didn't play in the game. So that's really 4 days. And then tomorrow we're going to amp it up and practice under the lights and kind of try to mimic what it's going to feel like to play in Brazil in regards to just the time of waking up early in the morning, having some meetings, and then, letting them get out of here for a little bit, and then having practice. But we still got to operate within the training camp window in regards to the time component.
Normal Wednesday workout as well.
Yeah. So then basically we're going to treat tomorrow as if it were a Sunday. The following day will be Monday. Then Tuesday will be the players' day off, and kind of get into the normal flow of a week.
That under the lights, will you do it in here or across the street?
Here. Yep. Some people are not very happy about that either. Alan Johnson.
Where do you think your depth is on the offensive line? You kept 10, the 5 guys that aren't the starters. You got 3 rookies, Kadeem, and then Dillard. Like, where do you kind of feel like you are if you get some challenges at that position?
Yeah, I think, obviously I think that we got a lot of people that we are confident in that can go out there and play. And we got to keep developing them. And so as far as the depth, I think you find out when they have to go in the game to see really where you're at. Certainly with some of the guys like Jordan Morgan just not being available the last couple of weeks, that's kind of hurt us, I would say. It's hurt him, and it's hurt our football team. So it'll be good to get him back out there.
You obviously know, or at least have a pretty good idea what this defense is capable of. But you didn't show a lot in either of the joint practices. Is that fair to say? Are you kind of excited?
Maybe not. We'll all find out week 1.
Unleash what maybe Jeff has, some of his creativity and some of his ideas now that you have kind of held back, obviously.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited. I think just the vibe we have around here right now, and I'm sure all 32 teams are excited to get going. But I do think that I've been really excited about our whole defensive staff. I think they've got a great rapport with our guys. I think they're excellent teachers, and I think we got some talented guys on that side of the ball. So I'm just excited to see how everything comes together and how we perform, not only week 1, but throughout the course of the season.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you all.
There you go. That is Matt LaFleur talking to the media. And is everybody in a bad mood? It's like he's talking about some guys. That's Rich Bisaccia's job. We're going to practice at night. Yeah, the field crew guy, the groundskeeper, not happy with us. It's like everybody's just mad. Dog nabbit, that, they're going to ruin my field and son of a. There you have it. Let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll come back. We got a lot more to get to. Mike Sando coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk a lot more about the NFL with him as well. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. Mentioned it a little bit earlier, but if you're just tuning us in, if you are associated with or a first responder, a military member, a veteran, or their families, we had a terrific donation that, as far as tickets and ability to go to the concert that we've got after the ride this coming weekend. You don't have to be a rider to do this because you're not joining us on the ride. It's just a ticket to go to the concert. But the donor said he really wanted them to go, or their family said they really wanted them to go to the show and go those tickets to go to first responders and such. And I did have a few people reach out, and we'd love to have you along. So if you're a first responder, if you're a military member, if you're a veteran, if you are the family thereof, and you want to go see this weekend the concert lineup down in Franklin, Wisconsin that we have for our post-ride event, and you want to see the headliner Jackal, the 80s rocker Lita Ford, Danny Coker and the gang from the show Counting Cars and from Pawn Stars. They got a band called Count 77. All you got to do is get a hold of us. get a hold of us and get a hold of Grant, 877-867-1670. Give Grant a call and he can hook you up and get you to me, and I'll get you on the list. But get a hold of us, and we'd love to have you. Just the only thing that they ask is that the tickets get used. That's it. I heard I've got a really nice note back from our friends at Walworth County Sheriff's Department who they are lining up some deputies that are going to be off that weekend that really want to go and want to be a part of it. And sometimes they can't always go to things like this because of cost or what have you. But nevertheless, so it was great. We sent it out to the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department. And if you're part of another local police department, get a hold of us. We'd love to have the support from our first responder audience and our veterans and our military members. So, because that's what the charity is all about. So we want to take care of you as much as you take care of us. So that's what we want to do. 877-867-1670. By the way, can you believe this? The Warriors and Steph Curry agree to a 1-year deal, $62.6 million. 1 year, $62.6 million. Isn't that the largest contract for 1 year in history?
It might be.
I mean, at least in the NBA or Major League Baseball or anything.
You know, Steph Curry's an old man. He's, past his prime, but still a little value there. I mean, it's nothing compared to CeeDee Lamb, who's coming into his prime as a wide receiver, who's going to make, what, 30, half of that?
But I'll tell you this. Steph Curry earned his keep in the Olympics. I mean, he was the guy that took it over at the end and ended up, winning the U.S. gold.
No, I'm not dumping on Steph Curry. It's just really hilarious to compare NBA contracts to NFL contracts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, so no, Steph's brilliant. I'd pay him all the money. But some NFL players have got to look at the money that, like Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, he's getting the same money that CeeDee Lamb is getting this year. He might be, Charch was talking about, as one of the best, most valuable offensive players in the league this morning.
By the way, Curry did have 2 years remaining. It wasn't like he was a free agent. He had 2 years remaining on his deal that he signed back in, I think 2021. And there's a rule in the NBA, if you're over the age of 38, teams cannot offer you big long-term deals. They don't want you, going into debt for guys that are over the age of 38 years old. And Steph Curry's, I can't believe Steph Curry's at that age. It's like, where in the hell did the years go? I remember when he was just coming into the league. So anyway, but he signs the extension. That's a massive amount. By the way, it puts him in the same club along with LeBron James and Kevin Durant to now surpass $500 million in career earnings. I mean, if you even think about that money, you have to hit the lottery to think about that kind of money. He now goes over $500 million in career earnings. That's crazy. Crazy money. Crazy money. Let's do this. We're going to step away. Mike Sando is going to join us talking NFL when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. A couple segments to go before we get out of here. We're not done yet. Not by any stretch of the imagination. On this fine Thursday, Packers now getting ready for the Eagles in Brazil a week from tomorrow. Can't believe it. A week from today, the NFL gets underway. A week from tomorrow, you got the Packers and the Eagles down in Brazil. And to talk a little bit more about it and everything regarding the NFL, our buddy Mike Sando, making a return appearance on the program from The Athletic, covering the NFL, longtime writer. Mike, how you doing?
Pretty good. I hate to jinx you, but yesterday I was on a radio show and they asked me to predict the Super Bowl, and I had a certain team from Green Bay as my NFC team. So,
and now let me ask you this, because you know what? You're not the first. There's been quite a few people that have kind of said that recently. Now, tell me this. Why do you think the Packers are better than, say, the Lions and the 49ers?
Well, when I make Super Bowl picks, it's hard to get them right. I think the Chiefs are the obvious team I would pick every year right now, so I pick them to win it. And if I look on the NFC side, the chalk would be the 49ers, but I do feel like it's been a fatiguing experience for them to come close for so long, and I'm not sure that their core players
who have some injury concerns are going to be as healthy as they've been, from Kittle to Deebo Samuel, and we know Christian McCaffrey. They've got a couple issues now with Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk, so I could see that. And then the Lions are good and they could be that team too. They doubled down on a lot of their players, but I think that you could see a potential trend line for the Packers as a really young team that looked like they were on the rise. And it's speculative, of course, but I think it's when you make these picks, if your pick is just what the Vegas favorite is, I mean, you're not really thinking about it. And so this makes some sense to me as a team to bet on that looks like they're headed in the right direction.
I agree with you. There is no reason not to pick Kansas City. I'm just until Patrick Mahomes doesn't do it, you just kind of bet on Patrick Mahomes. But no team has ever done it in the modern Super Bowl era to win back-to-backs. And I agree with you. As much as I want to say Kansas City is going to be the representative, I just don't think history would tell you they're not going to win it. But looking at Kansas City, and they've even gotten a little bit better, and if Rashee Rice can kind of keep his head on straight, there's no reason not to think that Kansas City is going to win the AFC again, right?
Yeah. Last year was the year Kansas City shouldn't have won it, and they did. So that was the hardest one to win, I think, when your offense was struggling. And, luckily for them, they had a good defense. But Mahomes has shown in 2019 and in 2022, he won the Super Bowl with teams that weren't that good on defense. Very difficult to do. If you look historically, the year that Rodgers won it all, they had a very good defense. It was their best year of defense and special teams, really. And same thing with Drew Brees, right? They had a really good defense that year that they won it. It's hard to do it when you are not squared away on that side of the ball, and even when you have a great quarterback. They've done it twice, and now they have a good defense. It looks like it's young and should be good again, right?
Right.
And they're going to not be as disjointed on offense, I wouldn't think, as they were last year. So I feel great about them.
The AFC to me is like just an enigma. You've got Lamar Jackson. At some point, you got to figure he's going to bust through that ceiling. You've got Joe Burrow coming back completely healthy, but Jamar Chase again back at practice today, but sitting out for refusing to participate. You don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to bring, although I don't think the Jets are really anywhere near getting to a Super Bowl at this point unless luck falls on their side. You've got so many different storylines this year. What intrigues you right now?
I do think Buffalo intrigues me with Josh Allen's weaponry falling off, and I think their defense got old, and that happened to Kansas City, and Kansas City reset with a bunch of young guys on defense and did it. But the Bills, to me, feel like a team that isn't as good around Josh Allen. Here he is in Tier 1. Are they going to be right back there? They had a good record last year, even though it was tumultuous. They interest me a lot. Can Josh Allen just hold this whole thing up and really prove his Tier 1 status, and can they make a dent in the playoffs? I think Baltimore is very intriguing because they just manufacture good coaches, or they find them. They have turnover. They're always really good on defense and special teams too. And so do they just reload and be as good as they've been on defense? Because if they're not, I think it becomes a lot harder for them to win at the rate that they've won at, and there'll be much more pressure on the passing game and the quarterback to do that. So they intrigue me for sure.
I'm excited for kind of the way the layout of the AFC is. I think the two toughest divisions in football, I still think the NFC North and the AFC North, both of those teams, or both of those divisions, I should say, the teams that win that, they got to battle through quite a bit. Even though we know Minnesota is going to be down, we're not quite sure what to make of Chicago yet. I still think those divisions are going to be tough. Do you look at another division as tough or tougher?
I think those are two good places to start. I think it will be interesting to see what the NFC West is like, because I think the 49ers and the Rams are good. And then Seattle was a 9-8 team that felt like they needed to make better use of their personnel, especially on defense. So they brought in Mike McDonald, who's unproven, but kind of an intriguing defensive kind of matchup type of guy. So, and remember, Arizona's going to get Kyler Murray back, so no one's really looking at them, but he'll be healthy. I think they have a promising young staff there in Arizona, but no one's even thinking of them. So that's a team that could have could have 2 to 3 teams also that could be contending for playoffs.
I want to go back to something you said about you're looking at teams that could be contending for playoffs, the AFC West. I agree with you on San Francisco. And Kyler Murray, the problem with Kyler Murray is he's not been able to complete a season. We've seen glimpses, but he hasn't done it on the consistent. Is this kind of his prove it year?
I think it's a very important year. The narrative around him got really negative when he did the big contract and it was revealed there was a homework clause in there, right? That he had to study his playbook or they were going to, send him to detention. I think that really hurt his reputation. And then he got hurt after that. So he's on a low. He's probably like an undervalued stock right now, right? Who has the ability to play better than what they got at the quarterback position last year. So it is big for him. I think if you look at the top of tier 3 in the quarterback tiers, tier 3 being your legitimate starter, but not necessarily a star, you're going to need more of a defense and a running game probably to have your team win. The top 4 guys in there are Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson. They're all being paid a lot of money. They were all people that were expected to carry their teams more. Tua is probably okay because they have a system of talent around them that can work. But I think Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray are in that sort of big year window, whereas and Deshaun Watson's been in that. I mean, it's even more heightened for him that they're pretty stuck with his contract, but those are some three talented guys in Lawrence, Murray, and Watson that I think have, some make or breakness to their seasons this year.
I want to go back to the NFC, and I want to talk about Jordan Love because we know there's some quarterbacks that kind of need to make that jump. They've signed contracts. Is there any worry about Jordan Love considering what we saw in the second half of last season, or is the argument just we want to see him now do it for a full season?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter that, hey, want to see him do it for a full season with more consistency. But I think people feel good about what they saw. They feel good about, Matt LaFleur there running the offense. So they think it's a winning combination and he should keep ascending. I do think that there were a couple of people who said, hey, wait a minute. Even late in the year, there were some rough spots against Tampa Bay or the final playoff game. So let's just not fall into the trap that, hey, Green Bay just finds another quarterback. They did it with, Rodgers after Favre, and now they've done it again. I think that's a good reminder that there's still a lot that can happen and a lot to be seen. And he wouldn't be the first guy to have a down year when the expectations are high. It happened to Trevor Lawrence last year, right? A year ago, people had him 6-7 spots higher, edging in on that top 10. And now they're wondering what his ceiling is. So, that can happen even if you have talent.
We were talking yesterday about coaches. The whole underrated and overrated thing starts to come out and people start to think about coaches that really aren't appreciated. Dan Campbell, to me, is probably one of the more underappreciated coaches that are out there. They look at him as kind of this big, tough Neanderthal where he just gets his team to play really hard-nosed football. But to me, that's what the game, pretty much 90% of it's all about. The rest of it's between the ears. So Dan Campbell, in the realm of coaching, do you think he gets enough respect or not enough respect? I mean, he turned around a franchise that hadn't been there since the 50s.
I think he's getting more and more. I do think he was kind of laughed at early on because it seemed like a shtick. But I think the lesson of Dan Campbell is that having an identity, we can debate what it is, but having an authentic identity is really critical to your program. And for Dan Campbell, if anyone else, if I went in there and tried to be the tough guy with that type of thing, people would see right away that that's not authentic, right? I'm not Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
But it's authentic for him. And then also he seems to be a good coach. He seems to actually be smart, and he's hired a staff and made changes on the staff when he felt it needed to be. Remember, they got Ben Johnson as their coordinator, but that wasn't the first coordinator. He had Anthony Lynn. He made a change that it looks like put the players in better position to play well and realize their potential. And when you can do that as a coach, then your identity and all of that not only becomes authentic, but it's credible, right? You have credibility as a coach. So I think it seems like he's checked those boxes of being able to help the players and put them in better position through some of the coaches they have and himself, and then having a clear vision for how they want to play.
Talking with Mike Sando, longtime NFL writer covering the NFL as well. Is there a couple of teams that you're thinking they got an outside shot at getting in, or maybe a team that was there last year that you thought, nah, this team's not going to get it done this year?
You mean in terms of make the playoffs?
Yeah, making the postseason. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, of the teams that missed last year, I mentioned, I don't know that Arizona would get to the playoffs, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were a little bit better than people thought. I'm looking through the rest of these teams. They're kind of down at the bottom. I think there's two teams that had bad years that have good quarterbacks, from the Chargers and the Bengals. I think you have to put an asterisk by them. AFC South is interesting to me. I think a lot of things that go in a lot of different directions there. I'm interested to see Tennessee. I think they made some big investments in their team, and they were big spenders this offseason. I don't know how that's all going to come together, but they're a team that we respected for a while, and then the bottom really fell out. I don't think anyone ever really talks about them or thinks about them, and so there's unknowns, but a good offensive line coach, some investments in the receiving core. I don't know how their draft of the offensive lineman is going to go, but I wouldn't predict or pencil them in, but they're just a forgotten team that we're not really sure.
Real quick before I let you go, and the big question that seems to be the national question is, what do you expect from Aaron Rodgers? I've said every time Rodgers has had a chip on his shoulder and been looked at as, well, he's pretty much done, he's come back with a vengeance. I'm not saying he's winning an MVP, but what do you think about the return of Aaron Rodgers this year?
He got votes in 4 tiers because no one knows how to synthesize all the information of him being older, possibly declining a little bit at the end in Green Bay, being in a new team, playing on turf every week. And then I think there's probably some Rodgers fatigue, right? He just hasn't played for so long, but he's always in the news.
Right.
I think if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, I think if he's healthy, he's a tier 1 quarterback. I do question whether at this stage he can do that for the whole year, because he's had a hard time, in recent years doing that, even with the Packers, for a whole year. So we'll see.
Mike, it's always great to pick your brain. You're always a wealth of information, and I love having you on. Appreciate it so much, and we'll talk to you again real soon, okay?
Yeah, hey, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. There you go. And Mike Sando joining us, covers the NFL, long time covering the NFL, works at The Athletic, and he's got a whole resume behind him of many places and many stops along the way. But Mike, tremendous guy. Great to get him on the program and great to pick his brain a little bit. Let's do this. We're going to come back, going to wrap it up. I'm excited about today, man. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about today. Stay tuned. Got more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, I'm Jeff Levering alongside Gina Della from Pella.
Thanks, Jeff. How do you say welcome?
With a new entry door from Pella.
Say it with color.
Like baseball bat oak or foul pole yellow?
Say it with class.
Like following players' unwritten baseball rules.
With clarity.
Like a no-doubter shot off the scoreboard.
Or with confidence.
Like an overachieving first-place team who experts predicted would be below average this season.
Before saying welcome with your new entry door from Pella, secure an incredible deal.
Like a ruthless baseball player's agent. Here's the deal you cannot pass up.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
That's the ball game. A Pella walk-off.
Your new entry door from Pella is installed and warranted by Pella for years of comfort and durability.
Don't miss out on 0% interest for up to 60 months with no money down and equal payments.
Schedule your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. See 31/2024.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
This day flew by. I mean, flew by. Crazy. Crazy. 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, you can. A couple of things that I wanted to get to before we got out of here today. Quite a few people over on the text line. This is from Jim. He said, please give a shout out to all the doctors and nurses who got me healthy again at the VA hospitals in Minneapolis. So Jim, shout out to everybody over there at the VA. This one's out of the 715 said, hey, Bill, said, I think what you're doing this weekend is great. Only if we can come down and see. Well, if you want to come down and see Jackal and hang out and enjoy the show, Jim, all you got to do is get a hold of me, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. And he says he is a military veteran from the Vietnam era. So appreciate you listening to the program, but more so appreciate your service. So thanks for hanging out with us there. And then I got one more here, and this one is from Chris, who says, hey, Bill, how did you end up doing it? You know what? I'm not done yet, Chris. My fantasy draft is not done yet. Not done. And then he asked the second question, what hat are you wearing? It is when we were in Boston on the East Coast, it's a white patriotic Boston Red Sox hat. However, it is the same logo of B that we have for the Big Unit Foundation. So Kristen's from that area. She's from the East Coast up in Rhode Island and big Boston Red Sox fan anyway. So I was going to buy a hat, and I saw this, and I thought rather than buying a Boston Red Sox hat, I bought the one that looks like the logo on our foundation. So that's what I have. Thank you for noticing. Good stuff. The quarterback tiers when Mike Sando, and we got into a lot of different discussions and went down a lot of different paths. But when we were talking about this, the quarterback tier in all of this and where guys kind of pan out, and he mentioned this during our discussion. You know, it's so interesting. Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the guy that was the most overrated by the players. Mike Sando thinks he's one of the top tier quarterbacks in the National Football League, which are players jealous, Grant, do you think, of the coverage that Josh Allen gets?
I think maybe 2 years ago that was the case. We talked about that yesterday, right? Like it's Allen and Mahomes, and all the other quarterbacks are like, well, probably not really. I think it's a little bit of the Giannis thing too, where he's not as skilled and his game might not be as polished and pretty, even though it's really effective. And I think maybe some other players kind of resent him for that.
One of the reasons he got put into that group was because there was a quote about Josh Allen that said he can pass to win it. And he can just say, screw it. I'm just going to go scramble because my passing game sucks today. And he can still win it. That was one of the voters that said that's the reason they voted for Josh Allen to be so high. Because sometimes it was like Favre. Favre would just say, look, I'm not throwing the ball very well today. Screw it. I'm just going to take off and try to run you over. and had a lot of success at doing that too. And then being the quote gunslinger, because that's what they'll call Josh Allen, that he's that gunslinger type of guy. So I don't necessarily say that he's going to end up with the same type of career and or Hall of Fame career that Brett Favre has had, but he may be cut a little bit more out of that cloth than a pure pocket passer or just a pure quarterback.
Well, and
he does so much.
One of the quotes that one of the people surveyed said about Josh Allen, I think sums it up. And this is why I also think of Giannis. This is the quote. He can pass to win it, and he can just say, screw it, I'm going to scramble today because my passing sucks and still win it. You know, and Giannis is the same thing. When his little his floater or his jumper isn't going, he'll just run through you. And Allen can kind of do the same thing.
So coming up tomorrow, it's a Friday edition of the show, and we're looking forward to hopefully the Brewers. Brewers, by the way, right now in the top of the third, up 2-0 early on over the Giants. So hopefully we're talking about the second win out of this 3-game series against the Giants. Plus tomorrow, the Brewers then wing their way to Cincinnati, to the hot box that is Great American Ballpark, and hopefully the home runs continue to come. So we're looking forward to that as well. Plus our usual wrap up of a weekend, going into the weekend, excited about it. Well, obviously, if you still want to go to the concert and you want to give us a shout, thebillmichaels@gmail.com, and we can see if we can get you on the list. That'd be great. And we want to share the wealth. We had a donor that just said, here you go. And God, it's just been so wonderful. We've had so many people step up and say so many terrific things. So we appreciate it very much, very much. Let's do this. Time for us to get out of here. Back at it 20 hours from now until we talk again.